in an executive session following the rules, specifically Resolution number 5 of the Senate, considered the motion of Senator Risa Hontiveros to subpoena the Honorable Executive Secretary. Out of the 17 members of this committee, there was a vote conducted and a ballot envelope was used. Can you mute that? Resulting in the following: 14 members of the Blue Ribbon Committee participated in a secret balloting. 14 members. Out of the 14 members, Mr. Secretary, take note, out of the 14 members, 11 members of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee voted to subpoena Executive Secretary Victor Rodriguez. 3 members of the committee voted no, not to subpoena the Executive Secretary. 3 members abstained. So following a vote of 11 in the affirmative, 4 in the negative, and 3 in the negative, and 3 abstention, the committee secretary, pursuant to Section 17 of Resolution number 5 as amended of the Philippine Senate, is hereby directed to issue a subpoena to be signed by the chairman and to be approved by the Senate President and to be served to the Executive Secretary immediately to require his presence and to answer questions coming from the members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. The Secretary is so ordered.
Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Secretary, with the permission of Senator Tiveros, Mr. Secretary, can you please take note of this? And this probably will be the contents of the subpoena to Executive Secretary Victor Rodriguez, J.P. Laurel Street, Office of the President, Manila. Greetings. Pursuant to lawful authority, you are hereby commanded to appear before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee of the Philippine Senate on Thursday, that would be September 8, at 10 o'clock in the morning. Philippine Senate, Pasay City, then and there to testify what you may know relative to the subject matter under consideration by the Blue Ribbon Committee pursuant to the privileged speech of the Senate President, the Honorable Juan Miguel Zubiri, and Executive Order number 18, the SRA law, and the SIDA law of 2015, and to produce documents relative to said matters. Hence, fail not, as you will answer your default under pains and penalties in such cases made and provided. To the Sergeant at Arms, you are hereby directed to serve and return, given under my hand by order of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, this 6th day of September in the year of our Lord, 2022. So ordered. Senator Tiveros?
No, Mr. Chair, I was simply going to thank the good chair and the Blue Ribbon Committee for our action on my motion duly seconded by the minority leader. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Any other matters? Can we now proceed to the other matters to be tackled today, may we request as requested by Senator J.B. Ejercito, may we request the Bureau of Customs to be seated. May we request the Department of Trade and Industry as requested by Senator De La Rosa to be seated. May we request the representatives coming from the private sector to be likewise to be seated. We start again with the testimony, aborted testimony of Attorney Tejada. Napirmahan na ho yung sinasabi nyo, sir?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, the one I had confirmed with the Office of the Administrator, they sent the signed communication September 2, Your Honor.
So do we have that in our possession right now? Wala pa rin? Wala pa rin daw, sir. Can you communicate with your head office where the letter is right now?
I did, Your Honor, but I'll do another follow-up, Your Honor.
So while waiting for that, can we proceed with the DTI? Senator De La Rosa has some questions to be addressed to the DTI representatives here. Where is the DTI? Saan po yung DTI? Take your seats. There are 3 DTI representatives here, supposed to be. Have you taken your oath? Tapos na, no? Please state a short, brief circumstances concerning your... You be seated. Pakiupo.
Mr. Chair, good morning. Director Marcos Valdez of the Consumer Policy and Advocacy Bureau of the Consumer Protection Group, DTI.
Senator De La Rosa, your witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Director. Director, you have the rank of Director?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. My first question is, sa mga naganap na raid ng warehouse, na mga warehouses na naglalaman ng sugar, mayroon na ba na nakasuhan ng violation of the Price Act on illegal acts of price manipulation through hoarding? Kung meron man, please give us an update sa status ng mga kaso na yon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Consumer Protection Group is part of the sub-task group on economic intelligence that's working only with the Department of Agriculture. And I am aware that last August 26 and August 18, there were raids conducted on sugar warehouses, but it appears that based on the documents that I have with me, the cases have yet to be filed on these instances, Mr. Chair.
Say again, for the record, there are no cases filed?
Few minutes, Mr. Chair.
Sige, while magpatulong ka dyan sa kasamahan mo, maghanap ng record. While looking for the answers to that question, sagutin mo na lang ito. During itong mga raids na ginawa ng customs, raids or visitations, as they call it, nag-coordinate ba sila sa inyo? Kasama ba kayo sa mga raids na ginawa ng custom? Itong latest lang, pertaining to raids on sugar warehouses. Kasama ba kayo? Hindi.
For my personal knowledge, Mr. Chair, I cannot answer that because my bureau is the Consumer Policy Advocacy Bureau, Mr. Chair. The raids done would be by the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau. If ever there will be coordination between the subtask group on economic intelligence, it will be the Fair Trade Enforcement Bureau that will participate in the raids, Mr. Chair.
Kaya nga, tinatanong ko kung meron o wala. You cannot answer that question, yes or no?
I can answer, Mr. Chair, that based on the records, our Undersecretary, Attorney Ruth Castello, was present during the raids in August in Cavite and Bulacan, but I have no record, Mr. Chair, of DTI's participation in the Subic. Was it Subic, Mr. Chair? Sorry.
Kaya nga, ganito DTI. Kung walang nakasuhan ng hoarding, despite the raids na ginawa ng Bureau of Customs in coordination with DTI, dahil alam naman na talaga natin na pagdating sa kaso ng hoarding, yung violation of the Price Act or RA 7581, dapat kayo talagang OPR niyan. Custom is only limited doon sa anti-smuggling cases. Pero sa hoarding cases, kayo dapat mag-take over. Kaya it is very important that during the raids being conducted by customs, meron kayong representative. At sinabi mo nga, may kasama doon na taga-DTI. Now, ilang days na ang nagdaan. Kaya ko tinatanong ito, kung nakapag-file na ba kayo ng kaso dito sa anti-hoarding law or yung Price Act natin, meron na ba kayong napailan ng kaso? Dahil kung wala kayong napailan ng kaso, meaning, there's no hoarding. So kung walang hoarding, na-confirm natin na talagang there is sugar shortage. Hindi hoarding yung nangyayari na yung nakikita natin ng mga sako-sakong bigas doon na sabi ni Senate President Subire na halata talaga na hinuhoard ito dahil ang dami. Pero kayo walang napailan ng kaso, ibig sabihin, kinukonfirm nyo na mayroong hoarding. So i-rephrase ko yung question. Is there hoarding na nangyayari ngayon relative to the sugar fiasco? Because you're DTI, you will be the one to determine whether there is hoarding or not. The customs cannot say na mayroong hoarding or wala. It is you, DTI, ang mag-conduct ng investigation and will come up with conclusion whether there is really hoarding or there's none.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me clarify, Mr. Chair, that under the Price Act, there are a number of implementing agencies. For the agricultural products, it would be the Department of Agriculture. For medicines and medical devices, it's the Department of Health. For forest products, it's the DNR. And all other products that are not under the jurisdiction of those I mentioned will be under the DTI. So in this case, Mr. Chair, if the product in question is the sugar, then it's under the Department of Agriculture's jurisdiction to file cases for hoarding, Mr. Chair.
Are you sure? Ganun ang nangyayari?
Yes, Mr. Chair. It's under...
Ako, hindi ako bugado pero I would like to advise you to go back to this law. Basahin niyo kung sinong OPR nito. Sinong Office of Primary Responsibility when it comes to hoarding. Tingnan mo. It's very clear na DTI ang sinasabi dito. Kayo palagi ang tinuturo sa batas pagdating sa hoarding. This is price manipulation. Price manipulation ito. So this is your area. Dapat kayo ang magsabi nito. Anyway, kung hindi mo masagot yan, tanungin ko na lang yung DA. Ang DA ba kasama sa raid nito ng customs?
The Department of Agriculture, Representative President, or former Undersecretary Sebastian, since you can be seated here, since you declared during the last hearing that you're not yet resigned or terminated from the Department of Agriculture but merely suspended, you're still part of the Department of Agriculture as an Undersecretary. Can you answer?
I've been preventively suspended, Your Honor, so I've not been able to go to the office since that time.
Yes, but what the good senator is asking is the role of the DA. In your recollection, is there a role of the DA in terms of hoarding issue?
To my knowledge, Your Honor, before the issuance of SO4, there were inspections done by SRA and the DA in some of the warehouses. After that, Your Honor, I
So you have a
no
role,
knowledge.
right? DA has a role.
Yes, Your Honor. Especially SRA, Your Honor.
So ngayon, Yusek Sebastian, mahirap naman ito kasi sasabihin mo naman na suspended ka. Sana sinong taga-DA dyan na nakasama doon sa mga raid na ginawa ng customs. Kasi hugas kamay ang DTI. When in fact, this is hoarding, this is price manipulation. Bakit mo ipapasa pa si DA? Sabihin mo, porque produkto niya ng agricultural product. I think, regardless of the kind of product, whether it's agricultural, whether it is industrial, or whether kung ano-anong product na yan, but still, when it comes to price manipulation, that should be your turf, DTI.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The DTI, Mr. Chair, is only following the Price Act, particularly on jurisdiction regarding Section 3. It's stated there, Section 3, Paragraph 3, on the implementing agency, and the subparagraphs refers to the Department of Agriculture, Department of Health, Department of Environment and Natural Resources. And then with
Kaya pala ganito, kung isang consumer, ako, ordinaryong consumer ako, bibili ako ng asukal. Nagdubli ang presyo ng asukal. Grabe kamahal. Saan ako mag-complain? Pupunta ako sa DA o sa DTI? Sige nga.
Mr. Chair, based on the Price Act, it's the Department of Agriculture that has jurisdiction over sugar. However, the DTI has a no wrong door policy.
Is that no?
No wrong door policy,
What's
Mr.
that
Chair.
no wrong door policy?
If the consumer does not know where to go, we are welcoming the consumer to lodge the complaint with the DTI, and then the DTI will assist the consumer on where to lodge the complaint, Mr. Chair.
If I may interject, Senator De La Rosa. So what you're saying is, in terms of price monitoring, DTI has no role when it comes to sugar.
Only recently, Mr. Chair, that the DTI has been monitoring the prices based on
Only recently. How recent is recent?
based on a directive, Mr. Chair, from the Office of the President.
So DTI talaga. Presyo eh. Presyo ng consumers. Di ba meron kayong Consumers Protection Board or something? Di ba?
Consumer Protection Group, Mr. Chair.
Yes. So, kayo talaga ang directly related sa consumers. Kaya tinatanong kayo ni Senator De La Rosa tungkol sa role ninyo. So, siguro, don't cite those overlapping provisions of law. Kayo talaga yun sa consumers kasi kayo yung nagdi-deal kayo yung nagmo-monitor ng prices, di ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we monitor prices on basic necessities and prime
Di ba
commodities.
basic necessity ang sugar?
That are not within the jurisdiction of the other implementing agencies of the Price Act, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
So,
quick
you-
follow-up with the indulgence of Vice Chair De La
recognize
Rosa.
Senator
Salamat, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Senator De La Rosa. Director Valdez, quick follow-up lang po dun sa line of questioning ni Vice Chair De La Rosa. In fact po, may kausap ako recently na dating gobernador sa isang probinsya. Sabi niya, bakit nung gobernador ako, ang DTI would always be breathing down my neck. Minsan lang may tumaas sa SRP ang isang produkto, kahit asukal, tatanungin na ako, bakit ganyan? So nagtataka rin siya, in line with the questioning of Vice Chair De La Rosa, bakit habang tumataas yung presyo ng asukal, ang tahimik ng DTI? Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Salamat, Vice Chair De La Rosa.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Ito bibigyan kita ng on March 19, 2020, the then DTI Secretary Ramon Lopez issued Memorandum Circular Number 20-07 entitled Anti-Hoarding and Anti-Panic Buying in relation to the Price Act. So, ano ngayon? Paano?
Gano'ng katagal ka na sa DTI?
Since June of 2021, Mr. Chair.
Tagal na. So inabot mo tong order na to.
That
you are aware of this?
That was before I assumed office,
Let
Mr.
me
Chair.
let me reiterate that you're under oath.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So kung iba yung sagot mo kanina, iba yung sagot mo ngayon, itama mo na ngayon.
Mr. Chair, the anti-panic buying and anti-hoarding circular issued by the DTI was to assist the Department of Health with regard to the purchasing of the alcohol products, the face masks during the pandemic, Mr. Chair. It was only an assistance.
Alam mo, Mr. Chair, this is a very sad reality na nangyayari sa ating gobyerno. Particularly DTI. Klaruhin ko na lang sa inyo. Alam mo yung Chief PNP ako, itong issue about firecrackers, which according to law, ito'y dapat regulated by the Firearms and Explosives Office of the PNP. And yet, itong DTI, nakikialam. Gusto nilang mag-inspect doon sa mga pagpanahon ng Pasko, nag-inspect sila doon sa mga firecrackers. Dahil nga, firecrackers daw is within the turf pa daw ng DTI. Dahil pagdating sa market, pricing na naman na pag-usapan, dapat makialam ang DTI. Ngayon, itong ano sabi mo kayo na? Basic necessity. Basic necessity. Na sugar. Sugar ito, basic necessity. Talagang lahat ng tao nangangailangan ng sugar, kahit na diabetic ka or hindi, talagang walang lasa yung pagkain kung walang sugar. Basic necessity. Itong firecrackers at pyrotechnics, hindi ito basic necessity. Luho na ito. Ito'y luho ng mga mayayaman during Pasko. Nagpapaputok ng mga firecrackers. But still, nakikialam kayo doon. Ito naman sa basic necessity, iwas pusoy kayo. Dahil nga, nagkakaroon na ng fiasco. I don't know, Mr. Chair, I leave it to you kung paano natin ito resolve.
Medyo confusing yung sagot mo kanina. Nagpunta ka sa basic necessity, pumasok dun sa anti-hoarding. Ang sabi mo ngayon, yung circular ng Secretary of DTI ay tungkol sa PPE, tungkol doon sa mga supplies. Hindi kasama doon yung sugar. Di ba? Hindi basic necessity ang sugar?
Hindi po kasama, Mr. Chair, yung sugar at that time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So medyo conflicting na yung sinabi mo. You're raising your hand, Yusek Sebastian?
Yes, Your Honor. This is what I know about sugar, Mr. Chairman, Your Honor. Before, I think by the end of July, I just don't know the exact date, there was a consultation.
July of 2022,
2022, Your Honor. Because of the rising price already of sugar, there was a consultation done by the Department of Agriculture on the possibility of setting a SRP for sugar. Because
Suggested retail price.
yes, Your Honor. But I think I lost track what happened to the recommendation. But it was not postponed, the setting up of a SRP, because the price was very volatile, Your Honor. So, indeed, Your Honor, the Department of Agriculture has some role when it comes to the setting of SRP for sugar in coordination with the Department of Trade and Industry, Your Honor. And during the peak also of the problem on pork, remember, Your Honor, in 2021, we also have a problem on pork and other commodities. The DTI and other agencies formed the Interagency Task Force on Economic Intelligence, STIG, which was supposed to help in monitoring the supply of a specific commodity, especially agricultural commodities, Your Honor. And they were also into anti-smuggling. Yeah. So there are joint activities between DTI and the Department of Agriculture.
Again, the question of
the hoarding, Your Honor, that
permit
is what
me to
I.
continue. Again, the question of Senator De La Rosa is this: who is in charge? If there is an interagency coordinative ad hoc body, who is in charge? Is it DTI? Is it DA? If it relates to medicine, is it FDA? So sino yung in charge? Itong pinag-uusapan natin ngayon sa asukal. Sino yung in charge doon sa monitoring ng presyo ng asukal? Medyo napalayo na tayo eh. Kung saan tayo nakarating. So, sino yung in charge sa monitoring ng presyo ng asukal? Yun lang ang tanong. Simplify na natin.
That would be, to my knowledge, Your Honor, that will be the Department of Agriculture, SRA, and DTI, Your Honor.
So pag ulitin ko ulit, pag interagency, sino yung pinaka-head noong coordinative body na yon? Yung tatlo. SRA is part of DA. So you have now DTI and DA. O isa na lang. Sino in charge doon? Sino nagpipreside sa meeting noon? Hindi naman pwedeng sabay-sabay yung nagpipreside. DA or DTI? Jack and Poy na lang.
Alam mo, Your Honor, siguro kaya na mamayagpag itong mga negosyante na unscrupulous businessmen dahil malabo itong ating law enforcement agencies kung sino talagang in charge dito, sino magpapail ng kaso nito. Kaya siguro wala pang napailan ng kaso hanggang ngayon. Katagal na nitong batas na ito. Ewan ko lang kung may napailan ng kaso, mamaya maghingi tayo ng data from DTI. Kung ilan na napailan ng kaso, ilan na nakumbikto. Dahil kung wala we might as well, basura itong batas na ito kung hindi nyo kayang i-implement.
DTI, before I give Senator Bato, De La Rosa, your one more question.
Yes,
So,
Mr. Chair.
quick reply. Paikot-ikot kayong dalawa eh.
Mr. Chair,
Pati ako na
thank
dito
you,
na.
Mr. Chair. The Subtask Group on Economic Intelligence, Mr. Chair, was created by the Department of Agriculture.
It's a creation of the Department of Agriculture with the DTI as a mere supportive entity. Ganun ba?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The other agencies of the STGEI are the National Security Council, National Intelligence Coordinating Agency.
What you're mentioning is a policy-making body. What Senator De La Rosa is asking is about an operational body.
It's an
Who is in
operation-
charge? Who is going to the different supermarkets? Who is going to the different tiangge, palengke, etc., etc. Hindi yung sa boardroom.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The STGEI is an operating body. It's headed by the Department of Agriculture, and all reports are drafted under the authority of the Department of Agriculture, Mr. Chair.
Department of Agriculture, raid, filing of cases, monitoring, etc., etc.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Department of Trade and Industry only assists the
Yusek
Department of...
Sebastian, kayo pala. Kayo raw, sabi ni DTI.
As far as the STEIG, Your Honor, that is correct. It is a task group that was developed, that was formed, co-chaired between DTI and DA.
Chair naman ngayon, so pareho, joint.
Yeah, I think if you read the document, Director, that you will see that we are co-chairs. But anyway, Your Honor, I think if we can call probably the proper official from the Department of Agriculture who can shed light on this.
Di ba ikaw na nga yung Yusek? Although you're suspended, you have a historical knowledge of what
Yes, Your Honor,
that,
but there is a
task force is all about.
There's an undersecretary, Your Honor, in the department who is actually involved in this. Yes,
Who is
Your
that undersecretary?
the Undersecretary for Consumer Affairs, Your Honor.
So there is also an undersecretary for Consumer Affairs. So there probably also is an undersecretary of DTI for Agricultural Affairs.
Now, Your Honor, I think the DTI is Yusek Castello, and on the part of DA, it was Asek Lasiste who was working with Yusek Castelo, Your Honor.
Taken too much time here. Crisscrossing, overlapping functions.
Mr. Chair, I just would like to manifest na klaruhin natin itong responsibilidad dito dahil ito talaga, this is the root cause of all price manipulation. Itong problema na ito, wala palang klaro kung sinong magpapile ng kaso. So, ipatawag natin ito kung sinong in charge dito. At maybe,
Secretary, take note of that. The referred to USEX coming from DTI and agriculture for the next hearing. Any other questions, Senator De La Rosa? For the moment, you will suspend your questioning.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The next to ask question will be Senator Ontiveros, then Senator Padilla, and then Senator J.B. Ejercito. Senator Ontiveros, you have your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Meron po akong mga tanong kay former admin Serapica. Online po ba siya, Mr. Chair?
I think he's here personally.
He's here personally.
Administrator Serapica?
Wala daw po sila, Mr. Chair. I think he's
Mr.
online,
Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, good morning.
Naririnig namin. Nasaan po kayo ngayon?
In my residence, Mr. Chair, because I tested positive yesterday after my RT-PCR.
Oh, we're sorry to hear that because the 3 other officials of SRA also COVID positive. Sana magaling na sila. Oh, so Senator Ontiveros, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po, former admin Serapica, at sana gumaling po kayo agad. Mr. Chair, I have a copy of your supplemental affidavit, former admin Serapica, and I turn your attention to page 3, item number 5 of this supplemental affidavit. May I read this to you as the basis of my questions? Quote, on the basis of the historical data and projections of SRA and recommendations of stakeholders received only on 2 August 2022 to 3 August 2022, on 4 August 2022 meeting with His Excellency President Marcos and Executive Secretary Aurelio Gerardo Valderrama Jr., after the instruction to import was reiterated by His Excellency, it was recommended that 300,000 metric tons of sugar should be imported. Close quote. Una po, former admin Serapica, do you confirm this statement?
Yes, Your Honor, I confirm my statement.
All right. Thank you. Yung statement po, that particular phrase in the statement na it was recommended that 300,000 metric tons of sugar should be imported. Sino po yung nag-recommend nun?
Actually, Madam, Your Honor,
Yes.
it was based on the recommendations of the stakeholders.
All right.
The recommendations of almost stakeholders that submitted the recommendation as an offshoot of the July 29 stakeholders or farmers, millers, and refiners stakeholders meeting.
So, based po dun sa July 29 meeting, in the following days, humingi kayo ng recommendation sa stakeholders. And you're telling the Blue Ribbon Committee this morning na base dun sa mga recommendation nung sabi nyo almost all the stakeholders, 300,000 metric tons of sugar were recommended to be imported.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And then, so in that, in the meeting then, the President and the Executive Secretary heard this recommendation of 300,000 metric tons. Tama po ba?
Yes po, Your Honor.
So they both heard it. Were there any objections to the recommendation to import 300,000 metric tons?
I cannot recall any objection at that point, in that meeting, Your Honor.
So you cannot recall, there were no objections as far as you can recall to that recommendation of 300,000 metric tons to be imported. So again, you confirm that, and I quote the affidavit, there was an instruction to import from the President.
The instructions was to submit an import plan, Your Honor. And in the language of SRA, Your Honor, an import plan is an import program in the form of a draft sugar order.
All right. So the instruction was to submit an import plan. But in the
Yes,
language of SRA, pag sinabi pong import plan, ibig sabihin nun, import program. At sa
Yes,
trabaho
Your
ng
Honor.
SRA, pag import program ang pinapasubmit, ang forma nun that it takes is a draft sugar order.
Yes
Tama
po,
po
Your
ba?
Honor. Yes po.
So yun po yung naging birthing process nung inyong draft sugar order 4.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Na nag-instruct si Presidente mag-submit ng import plan na ibig sabihin sa SRA ay import program na ang forma nun is the draft sugar order number 4 eventually.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, salamat former admin Serapica. So yung and were there other matters discussed dun po sa pulong?
Actually, in that online meeting with the President, former board member Valderrama was also in that online meeting.
Okay.
And the President mentioned about a volume of 600,000 metric tons. And I
600,000
said-
metric tons
Yes
ang
po.
binanggit ni Presidente na volume. Okay.
And I said, Mr. President, that may be too much because starting August 1, First Farmers has already accepted canes delivery from farmers. And anytime this week, they will start milling.
Yes.
And former board member Valderrama can confirm this, Your Honor.
So there were at least a couple of other matters na diniscuss na kasama si former board member Valderrama. Yung 600,000 metric tons na volume na nasa isip ni Presidente noon, pero sinabi nyo sa kanila, that's too much. And pangalawa, yes, Mr. Chair.
For the record, surprisingly, the figure 600,000, ngayon lang lumabas yan. Ngayon din lang lumabas yung online meeting. Ang dami na natin hearing dito, Mr. Serapica. Marami kang bagong nilalabas ngayon na wala naman dati sa former testimony mo and your sworn statements. The figure 600,000, this is the first time I've heard of that. The online meeting, this is the first time I've heard of that. So, why were this not disclosed during your previous appearances here? Especially your first appearance when we summoned you from your residence in Parañaque. Bakit hindi lumabas yan? Ayun, voluntarily mong dinidisclose. Thank you, Senator Tibet.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
In my original sworn statement, in section 4.2, Your Honor, the instruction to prepare the sugar importation plan was reiterated during the August 4, 2022 meeting.
I was referring to the figures of 600,000. And the word online. Ngayon lang lumabas yun.
Well, that meeting, Your Honor, was online.
Pero ngayon hindi
With
mo
the
sinabi
President
dati
on
yan.
August 4.
Kasi ganito yan, my speculation is this. For you to be able to escape further scrutiny would be, the easiest way would be to allege that you were with the President, that the President instructed you. So you probably was advised that the President cannot be held to the Senate by virtue of a co-equal treatment and respect for a co-equal department. So bakit parang doon ka nagtatago ngayon? Ina-allege mo yung mga bagay na hindi namin pwedeng puntahan. Tama ba yung, that is a mere speculation, because I was surprised that you are bringing in figures that were not divulged, that never came up, because we're now on another phase of this investigation. So this should have been laid down as preliminaries during your first hearing, first attendance here, Mr. Serapica.
With due respect to the President, Your Honor, that was really said. And, former board member Valderrama can attest to this.
Yes,
Your
but
Honor.
wala sa records namin na ilang hearings na tayo yung 600,000 at saka yung word online meeting nyo. Ang lumalabas doon sa mga meetings nyo, nagkasalubong sa CR kayo, tapos na, lalabas na doon sa meeting room, umuwi na yung isa, pero the word online, the virtual meeting, never aroused. Never came up, including the figure 600,000. Kaya nakagulat.
Mr. Chair, since binanggit po si former board member Valderrama, if he is also online, could we ask him to confirm these matters? Nandito po ba siya, Mr. Chair, si former board member Valderrama?
Board member Valderrama, are you online?
Yes, I'm online, Mr. Chair.
Where are you? Where are you? Are you?
I'm here in. Yes, I'm listening.
So probably what Senator Ontiveros would be asking is that can you confirm?
Yes,
Yes,
I
Mr. Chair.
confirm that meeting. I confirm that meeting.
So you confirm, former board member Valderrama, that at that time, there was a volume of 600,000 metric tons in the mind of the President, but sinabihan niyo po sila sa meeting na yon na baka masyadong marami. And because at that time, First Farmers had even a little earlier, August 1, already started receiving cane. Kaya magsisimula or nagsisimula na talaga yung milling. Do you confirm each of these matters, former board member?
Yes, this was discussed on our Zoom meeting together with the President, and he mentioned the 600,000, but Mr. Former Administrator Serapica said that it might be too much because the milling season was about to open.
Sir, could you move closer to the mic? Hindi po namin narinig yung last statement nyo, last sentence.
And Mr. Serapica said that it might be too much because the milling season is about to open.
Alright, so sinabi nyo nga, kina Presidente na 600,000 metric tons might be too much precisely because the milling season had already started. So, yes, Mr. Valderrama. Could you repeat, please?
It was Mr. Serapica who said that, not me. But I was listening to the conversation.
You were listening to the conversation, and so?
And the President said 600,000, and Mr. Serapica said that might be too much, Mr. President, because the milling season is about to open.
All right, so ito
Together
specifically,
with us
Mr.
was
Serapica. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Secretary.
Yes,
Together with us was
Mr. Valderrama, let me continue. What you are now saying is that you are affirming what Mr. Serapica just mentioned. But for the record, the statements coming from Mr. Serapica right now are culled from a new sworn statement which he just issued September 2, 2022. So all of these items were not part of his original testimony before this committee. So we now have a 26-page sworn statement putting in some details previously not divulged and coming up with some details that afterthought probably might not be the appropriate word, that would try to link some dots. So I still doubt again the veracity of the contents of all of this. So I remind you, Mr. Serapica, you're under oath, and this is again a sworn statement, perjury as a price. There are some details here that were not divulged during your first testimony, so I reserve my comment when we scrutinize the details of this document. You may proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, indeed, as the good chair said, former Administrator Serapica submitted this document September 2, so more than half a week ago. It is in the form of it is a supplemental affidavit. So for one, as one of the members of the Blue Ribbon, I would like to express my appreciation to former Administrator Serapica for submitting a formal legal document to the committee para mas matimbang namin at kung ano yung mga facts nitong buong kwentong ito. And with due respect also, the Executive Secretary also did not disclose the August 4 meeting in his initial presentation to the Blue Ribbon committee. Wala dun sa record ni ES saying na nasa August 4 meeting si Presidente. And lastly, on this particular point, Mr. Chair, for the record, two resource persons have confirmed so far that volume of 600,000 metric tons, but it was advised at that meeting by the SRA, particularly by former Administrator Serapica, that might be too big a volume, Mr. Chair. So just to return momentarily to former Admin Serapica, I hope, however, former board member Valderrama, you will stay online with the committee. Former Administrator Serapica, so the big question, sir, why this messy fiasco kahit wala naman palang objection sa proposal ng 300,000 metric tons? Batay sa rekomendasyon ng mga stakeholders, wala namang objections dun sa August 4 meeting. So bakit nagkagulo-gulo, naging fiasco pa ito? And despite the instruction to import given by the President, dahil sabi nila mag-draft kayo ng importation plan, na ibig sabihin sa SRA, mag-draft kayo ng importation program, na ibig sabihin mag-draft kayo ng sugar order. So, I suppose, Mr. Chair, dear colleagues, ito nga po yung mga tanong na kailangan pang dagdag na sagutin ni Executive Secretary. And just a brief manifestation, Mr. Chair, in my last 10 minutes, no? In my last minute, I guess, Mr. Chair. In my last 30 seconds, Mr. Chair. Even if we are disappointed that the Executive Secretary hasn't shown up yet, we're very happy that the committee will go that extra mile by subpoenaing him to appear. I believe, with all due respect, we now hold information on at least 3 things, at baka ito na po siguro ang itinatago ni ES Rodriguez. Una, na nagkaroon pala ng pangalawang pulong sa araw ng August 4 sa hapon, na sinadya nang hindi binanggit sa binasa niyang salaysay sa atin dito sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Pangalawa, sa pulong na iyon, yung pangalawang pulong noong August 4, bago isinapinal at pirmahan ang Sugar Order number 4, kung saan naroon sina Presidente, Executive Secretary, dating Board Member Valderrama at dating Administrator Serapica, ay muling iginiit ni Pangulo na kailangang madaliin na ang importasyon ng asukal. At pangatlo, sa inilihim na pulong na ito ay ipinaliwanag pala ng SRA kay Presidente na sa ilalabas na import plan or import program o sugar order ay 300,000 metric tons lamang ang kailangan sa halip na 600,000 metric tons na naunang inakala ni Presidente sa August 4 na pulong na ito. So inaasahan po natin, Mr. Chair, na isusulat na report ng Blue Ribbon Committee ay hindi sana makaligtaan ang itinagong impormasyong ito ni Executive Secretary. Kasalanan po nila kung hanggang sa araw na ito, kailangan pang magsabina po tayo na para harapin ang mga tanong at mga bagong naisiwalat sa hearing na ito ng Blue Ribbon Committee. Maraming salamat po sa resource persons at Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Contiveros. Before we allow Senator Padilla, I think he's not here, and then followed by Senator Ejercito, with the indulgence of Senator Ejercito, who will be next in line. I have a question coming from the supplemental affidavit of Mr. Serapica. Apparently, this supplemental affidavit that we have now answered some queries brought about by the testimonies of various resource persons, specifically Mr. Manuel Lamata, who is here, I think. Yes. Can you be seated, sir? I think you just came from an executive checkup. Are you okay now? Yes. In Mr. Serapica's second affidavit, executed September 2, he alleged on, if he can be shown a copy, Comsec, can we show number 29, page 11, page 11 of the supplemental affidavit? Can we show it to Mr. Lamata? And I'd like to quote this. Number 29, more so, there is no truth to the allegation of Mr. Lamata that it was made to appear that 300,000 metric tons was already approved by the President so as to render the group with no other choice but to agree. The said recommendation only came during the August 4, 2022 meeting, and all recommendations of the stakeholders were in. It is clear from the transcript of the July 29, 2022 meeting with the stakeholders that there was no mention to that effect. Are you aware of this? You're not aware of the supplemental affidavit, but there is now a concrete rebuttal of what you said, that you lied before the committee. That is what Mr. Serapica is saying, that there is no truth to your allegation, Mr. Lamata. Can you expound on this? Sino ba nagsasabi ng totoo?
Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning, sir. Well, my best friend is saying a lie.
Your best friend?
Mr. Serapica po.
So, Mr. Serapica is lying?
Yes po.
So, in effect, he is committing perjury here. So, what made you declare that he is lying?
Okay, pinakalat nila po, especially Mr. Serapica, to the other federations, that there is a shortage. Tatlong phrases yun eh. Kakapos na, kakulang na, wala na. Wala nang asukal. Tapos na. By August, sabi niya, there will be no more sugar. So there is a national emergency. Those were his words. And he asked all of us stakeholders to submit a resolution, which I signed. I agreed to the 300,000 metric ton kasi sabi niya, orders ni Presidente to appease the very high rising prices of retail.
The date when you signed was when?
I cannot recall anymore, sir, but the resolution, I have it in my office and I'll give you a copy po.
Please do that. We'll have that part of the records of this hearing.
Yes,
so, you may continue.
So, I signed the resolution, sent it to them that our group, United Sugar Federation, is agreeable for a 300,000 metric tons refined. Eh, yung lumabas po, ang SO, kalahati, 150,000 is raw, 150,000 refined. I never signed up for that. Yung sabi ko, all refined. Bakit may raw?
Sinasabi po niya kanina 600,000 na. Narinig niyo ba yung
Ay,
figures
never
na?
po. Bago lang yan. Bagong imagination niya naman yan.
So ngayon lang yung 600,000?
Yes po.
Okay.
We never heard that.
So, what about the online meeting?
Never heard of that neither po.
So, Mr. Serapica is lying?
I'm very sure she
Not
is.
just once?
Yes po.
Go ahead, continue.
Okay, so pag naglabas na yung sugar order number 4, yun na, kalahati na. Eh, sabi namin, hindi pwede yan. 150,000 of raw, umimpisa na 6 na sugar mills were starting to fire up. We were already harvesting. So, pagdating yan, November, December, sabi, patay na naman yung presyo ng mga planters. Babagsak yun. So, sino naman kumita doon? Ayun. mga miller traders po na may mga refineries. That was intended for them. So, nagkukonsabo yan po si Mr. Serapica, yung miller trader refiner, at saka yung mga retailers.
So again, for the record, Mr. Lamata, was there a July 29, 2022 meeting with the stakeholders? As far as your knowledge is concerned, as far as you're aware of, was there a meeting convened?
I'm not very sure of that, sir. Not very sure. Whether it was Zoom or what, I'm not sure.
So there could have been a meeting.
There could be, but yung sa akin na po na sigurado.
You were not invited.
Definitely. Best friend ko yan eh.
And you were invited before.
Before him,
SO3,
yes, always.
But for SO4, you were not invited.
No pa.
Because of?
He is my best friend.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Senator Ontiveros?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief interjection. The stakeholders meeting on July 29 was via Zoom, and there is a recording. So maybe the SRA should provide a copy to the Blue Ribbon Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There is a request here for the minutes of that meeting. Yusek Sebastian, are you aware of that? SRA, dito pala.
Your Honor, please, I shall facilitate the production of the recording to this committee, Your Honor.
Again, was there a meeting?
If that refers to the SO3, I was sent the link, but
SO4 na tayo.
the SO4, I'm sorry. We were sent the link. I was personally sent the link. I was able to join that, but I was not able to speak. But that meeting really occurred for that purpose.
So that meeting took place.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that meeting was about a stakeholders consultation meeting prior to the issuance of SO4.
That was related to SO4. Your Honor.
Thank you. Senator JV, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Lamat.
I'd just like to take advantage of the time that Mr. Lamata is here because we have worked together, no, when we were crafting the SIDA law, 2015. Kasama po natin, Mr. Chairman, ang planters, the millers, also the other stakeholders of the sugar industry. But 7 years after, 6-7 years after its passage, sad to say that the SIDA law never really took off. Nakakalungkot. No? Because, again, my mother hails from Negros. I have the chance to talk to a lot of the stakeholders. And by now, had it been implemented properly, we probably have been on the way, Mr. Chairman, to food sufficiency, especially sa sugar. No? That's 6 to 7 years. With a 2 billion peso a year funding for the revitalization of the sugar industry, modernization, mechanization of the farming methods, having modern rice mills, sugar mills by now. But I think we are back to square one. I'd just like to ask, Mr. Lamata, how often are you consulted by SRA with regards to these sugar imports, yung mga sugar memos? Are you always nako-consult ba yung mga planters, mga millers by SRA?
Yes, nagkukonsulta po. But all our resolutions, I think it's just thrown to the wastebasket. Hindi naman pinapansin. Tapos na yung boxing if we talk about it now. I mean, they've already made and formed their own plans and executed. So they're just using our resolutions as compliance. When they get into trouble, they bring it up and say, look, we consulted the stakeholders.
In the same way that when they needed SR 3 and 4, they went back to you for the resolutions, for compliance.
Exactly. That's
so
what
it's
happened.
not really consulting the millers and the planters on whether you can supply the domestic consumption or industrial consumption, but they go to you for compliance because, kumbaga, nandun na yung yung imports are already coming. Tama ho ba?
That is exactly correct, sir.
My concern here, as one of the authors, principal authors of the Sugarcane Industry Development Act, nalulungkot po ako, no? Dahil sayang yung panahon, Mr. Chairman, na nakaraan, am I correct in saying, kung tama ba ang hinala ko, that SRA, the DA, and BOC probably, masyado nang nawili sa importation that we forgot, really, to implement the essence, the very essence of the Sugarcane Industry Development Act, that is really to revitalize and stimulate the sugar industry as a whole. Mr. Lamata, sige po.
Yes po. Sayang po eh.
So what went wrong? Siguro, kayo po siyempre mga stakeholders dito. What went wrong the past 6 years? What else went wrong aside from sugar, too much importation?
Well, let's go back to your authors on the SIDA law. It wasn't administered well. It wasn't implemented well. Even a very good Senator Cynthia Villaris so upbeat about it that sayang yung 2 billion natin. From 2 billion, we're now down to 500,000 eh. And that's, you know, that's every year. Sana kung natuto lang tong administrator na to, ang daming traktora na bili, daming irrigation units, daming natulong. Imagine every year you can have 2B, may gali. That's a lot of money, but it was never utilized.
Probably we can have modern sugar mills already that can really bring down the cost of production of sugar. Because
Very
our
correct.
sugar mills are 50, 60, 70 years old. Am I correct?
100 na nga eh.
May 100 pa. Though very inefficient, very costly to operate. Tama ho ba?
That is very correct.
That's
po.
why we cannot compete with our neighbors with given these circumstances.
That is very true po.
So sa tingin nyo ba may favoritism ang SRA sa mga millers at mga traders na nabanggit nyo kanina?
And that's speculation na po. I really cannot tell.
So, I'd just like to ask SRA, are they new officials? Attorney, dito ba yung mga new officials?
They are not around, Your Honor.
Again, because far as I can remember last time, they were not around because na-COVID din sila, di ba? Last time po.
That was last time, sir, but as far as my knowledge is concerned, they are scheduled to go to the GCG, the Governance Commission for GOCC this morning also, Your Honors.
I'd just like to ask, of course, the plan of action because sayang po itong batas eh. No? And the President's directive, Mr. Chairman, is food sufficiency because of what happened to Ukraine and other conflicts. We are too much import dependent. Talagang tumataas ang presyo. Kaya nga, I would want to hear the plan of the SRA, the plan of action this time. Dati po 2 billion a year ang fund ng SIDA. Bumaba ng hanggang 500 million kasi nga hindi na utilize. We're trying to get 1 billion now para nga, tignan natin. Kung talaga may implement ng tama't maayos. So, Attorney, can you answer on behalf of SRA what will be the plan of action of SRA this time?
Unfortunately, sir, I cannot answer for the Sugar Board. Maybe we can, it's best answered by the members of the new Sugar Board, sir. Thank you.
But this is the second consecutive Blue Ribbon hearing. Nung una, ang excuse, Mr. Chair, na COVID. They were under quarantine. Ngayon, wala na, because nasa GCG naman. How will we get to the bottom of this? Because in aid of legislation, hindi tayo gano'n rito, we want to get to the bottom and improve the implementation of the SIDA law. Nangihinahin tayo. 6 years, 7 years has passed. And we're back to square one. Because of too much importation, masyado tayong naiwiwili. Kailangan makita natin. When will they be showing up? And I hope they can show up, Mr. Chairman, next time when we would want to know the plan of action. Magkikita pa tayo sa budget hearing. Remember, you cannot hide. May budget hearing pang DA. Pag nagtago, magkikita pa tayo sa budget hearing. And I hope that you can relay this to the SRA, the new SRA administrator. Total, bago naman sila eh. Diba? I would want to hear, as the author of this SIDA law, ano ang plan of action. Attorney, please relay.
I shall relay, sir, as requested, sir.
Kasi nakadalawa na eh. Diba? Kung isa, dalawa, hindi niya dapat sinisnab ang Blue Ribbon because you cannot hide from us because there will still be budget hearing that will be coming up. Tanong ko lang, Mr. Chair, sa BOC quickly, Attorney, pangalan, di pa kita.
Dibuko, Your Honor.
Attorney Edward Dibuco. Nasaan po si Commissioner this time?
Actually, he is attending the exit conference with the COA, Your Honor. That's why I was sent to represent.
Are you in ano? Can you answer for the BOC? Kung ano
Yes, Your
ano
Honor,
faction?
I'm a deputy commissioner in the
Yes,
BOC.
deputy. Yes, DepCom. Kasi when we passed RA 10845 or the Anti-Agriculture Smuggling Act of 2016, various smuggling groups were also established, no? Ng BOC nag-establish kayo ng task forces. The Anti-Smuggling Task Force was established by BOC in 2018 to act as the agency's prosecution arm for anti-smuggling activities. While in 2019, ang DA naman established a Compliance and Regulatory Enforcement for Security and Trade Office, which is a unified regulatory enforcement unit of the DA. Ang tanong ko lang po sa inyo po, sa BOC, ano po ang naging accomplishment nitong mga task force na inyong naitayo for anti-agriculture smuggling? Kasi no 2016 ito pinasa, 2018 nyo binuo ang task force. Any accomplishments?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, the BOC has filed 337 criminal cases involving unlawful importation of agricultural products before the DOJ since 2018. So, 280
Ilan
of
po,
these,
for the record, DepCom? Paki
337 criminal cases, Your Honor. And out of these, since 2018, 280 of which are under preliminary investigation, and 57 were filed or for filing before the courts.
Ano po to? Agriculture smuggling lahat to?
Opo.
Okay.
So in 2022 alone, 64 criminal cases were filed before the DOJ, which are all subject to preliminary investigation.
So ilan po ang recently, no? When President Bongbong Marcos took over, food security was his concern. So natutuwa nga ako eh. Ako po ang principal author ng anti-agriculture smuggling law naman, no? Kasi complementary ito eh. We really wanted to strengthen sugar industry and agricultural sector as a whole. Pinas natin anti-agriculture smuggling law. Natutuwa ako, naririnig ko ngayon ang BOC, nagkakonduct na kayo ng visitations o raids sa mga warehouses recently. Pero noong nakaraan, parang hindi naman natin naririnig yan. Sana magtuloy-tuloy. No? Ilang warehouses na ba ang na-visit natin bago tong BBM administration? Nag-conduct din ba kayo ng visitation before and raids?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact,
Meron naman.
most of these cases were results of the visitation that we conducted, Your Honor.
Tanong ko lang po, DepCo, kasi ang nakakalukot, Mr. Chairman, no, doon sa listahan ng mga nandito nung nakaraan, and looking back at the other cases in the past, parang recidivista pa ulit-ulit. No? Yung mga listahan. Napansin ko lang naman po, kaya nga sana I would have wanted Commissioner Yogi to be here, sila DepCo Bakiram, kasi kung hindi ako nagkakamali, nandun din yung mga listahan niya rin sa former Senate President Soto sa kanyang expose on the smuggling of vegetables naman from China. Pansin ko lang, nandun din po, no? Yung Jerry Tebes, nandun lumabas na naman. Pati nung panahon ng yung sa drugs doon sa magnetic lifters, parang yung ibang officials sa customs, nandun din. Di ba? Paulit-ulit. So I would have wanted sana sa Blue Ribbon, this gives you the chance to clear your name. So tatanong ko lang, DepCom, since sabi mo you can answer for BOC, doon po sa pagdating sa, just give us an idea, doon sa per container, for example of sugar, halimbawa, or any other agriculture products, magkano po kaya ang assessment doon per container? Meron bang idea kayo? Bawa sugar.
Sa ano kasi sir, depende yun sa
Volume.
declared value.
Yes.
For example, pag declared value, pag within ASEAN siya, nasa 5% of the value.
5% of the value ang duties natin.
Yes.
Okay.
At pag outside ng ASEAN, it's 50 and up to 60%, Your Honor.
So for example, kung ASEAN, ano kaya ang, kahit rough estimate lang, halimbawa may importation tayo ng sugar or vegetables, Mga magkano yun? May 500,000 ba? O 1 million ang isang...
For example, isang container, palaging laman yan, mga 400 to 500 sacks.
okay.
So at
Magkano kaya ang value? Estimate lang naman, DepCom, hindi naman kinakailangan. Ano?
so for example at 800 per sack for example. So
Sa isang container, mga ilang sacks kaya?
mga 500 sacks.
500 sacks. So, 800 times 500, mga ilang? 40,000? 4,000 sacks. Mahina ako sa math eh. Ilan ba yun? 800 sacks?
500 sacks sa
500
isang container.
sacks
Times 800 per sack for
per
example.
sack. Okay.
So
that comes
will
out
be mga
to
4 million.
4 million. Ang assessed value. Tama
Yes
ba?
po.
Assessed value. So, magkano ang duties doon?
So 5% of that
Mga 400,000. 400,000 per container.
per container.
Pero meron akong information na kapag sila Jerry Tebes daw ang naglalabas in connivance with certain commission, customs official, 60,000 lang daw ang lumalabas. Pwede ba natin i-flash sa screen sa secretariat? Yung pong yung assessment na galing po sa customs. This will be for the records of the Blue Ribbon. I'll give this to our chairman. Medyo malabo lang pero nandito kasi. Mr. Chairman, kasi natanong ko yung assessed value, no? For example, sugar or vegetable. Ang lamon daw ng isang container, around 500 sacks times 800 per sack ang assessment. So that's about 4 million pesos. So kung 10%, 400,000 dapat ang assessment. Pero pag sila Jerry Tebes daw naglalabas with connivance, 60,000 lang. I have here with me a documents, no? Na lumalabas ang assessment 60,000 lang.
Senator JD, would you like that to be part of the records of
Yes, I will submit, Mr. Chairman, this to become records of the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Thank you. And the committee secretary is directed to
Sinusubukan lang natin i-flash.
we have a digital copy of that. But ayaw, where's our technical group? Attorney Alu, ikaw ba yung nagte-technical? Ha? Saan? Can you enlarge that?
Anyway, probably we can flash it later on. Siguro, DepCom, can you answer? Bakit 60,000 lang ang assessment?
With the permission of Senator JB, DepCom, you're allowed to approach. Senator...
Hindi, papakita ko lang.
Para makita mo.
Well, actually,
You
Your
can
Honor,
approach, para makita mo lang. To give fairness to your answer. Just take hold of that document and study it for a second and then make your comment. Let the records reflect that the Deputy Commissioner has been handed the copy of a Xerox copy of the document for him to reply appropriately. Please answer the query of Senator JD.
if I may, Your Honor,
Now shown on the screen. You can...
hindi ko pa rin makita, Your Honor. Anyway, Your Honor, the Commissioner has instructed all the ports to be vigilant in the valuation of shipments, sensitive shipments like sugar. There has been an instruction. So in cases like this, for example, this matter maybe will be will be referred to our post-clearance audit group. So even if nakalabas na yan, till pwede pong singilin pa rin ng Bureau of Customs yan through our post-audit group, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, yun lang. Kasi nagtaka ko, at least based on your rough estimate, siguro dapat mga 400,000 per container, no, kung mga agricultural products yan. Pero ang payment lang, pag daw, eto, no, investigation pa naman to, kay Jerry Tebes, at meron siyang mga collection, 60,000 lang lumalabas ang payment, Mr. Chairman. So, this will be the records, no, and probably we'll wait for the Blue Ribbon Committee's recommendation, and we'll probably with the help of NBI and siguro later on continue the investigation. Total, sabi nyo, you can reassess also, pwede kang habuli. Kasi nagtataka ako, Mr. Chair, masyado malayo, 400,000 against 60,000.
By the way, my estimate was very rough, Your Honor.
Yun, of course, pasensya na kayo, no? Hindi ako mainit sa BOC, no? Kala yung nag-iingit. Kaya lang, nalulungkot ako, Mr. Chairman. I'm very much, as I mentioned previously, being the author of Sige the Law and Anti-Agricultural Smuggling Law, parang narawala yung relevance, Mr. Chair, because of too much importation and smuggling. And now that we have a chance that the President himself took it upon himself na talagang mag-hands-on siya, dapat magtulong-tulong agencies. You must remember, there is still, meron pa tayong budget season, dadaan pa rin kayo sa Senado. He cannot hide. No? Sana man next time, I hope that yung mga top officials dumalo po. No? Ang malungkot po dito, Mr. Chair, sabi ko nga, alam naman natin, yung pabadalos minsan, kailangan naman talaga yun para bumilis. Yung pampatalino. Pero ang pinakamasakit dito, yung pampabulag at pampabobo, na kahit nakikita na natin, kahit alam na natin, kapag binigyan ng pampabobo at pampatalino, pampabulag, talagang hindi natin makikita. And I think this is a time for us, Mr. Chair, really, that take advantage of this opportunity. Naayusin lahat ito dahil ang presidente na mismo, talagang priority niya ang ating food security. That's all, Mr. Chair, for my time. I guess I have exceeded my time.
Senator JB, I think Deputy Commissioner would want to add something.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is that in addition to what?
Yes, Your Honor,
mentioned a
and
while
I
ago?
think this will help also in the proceedings, Your Honor. Kasi, Sir, Your Honor, yung regarding sa interagency coordination, actually, we have this program, the National Single Window, hindi po ba? So, sa National Single Window kasi, lahat ng agencies doon mo makikita, for example, yung mga import permits, yung mga other documents, no, sa importation. So, as of now, there are 24 agencies that are on board the National Single Window Program. So, out of those 24 agencies na on board, only 11 are active. So, sa Department of Agriculture, for example, the Bureau of Animal Industry is active. The Bureau of Plant Industry is active. The BIFAR is active. So, makikita kaagad ng Bureau of Customs, for example, kapag yung shipment is covered by a certain import permit or proper documentation. So, hindi na namin kailangan actually na makipag-coordinate sa other agencies because of that. So, in the case of SRA kasi, they are already on board, kaya lang hindi pa sila actively, hindi sila active doon sa NSW. So, sana, I would like to request the SRA to be active in the National Single Window.
With the indulgence of Senator Hercito. So SRA now, again, is to be blamed for all of this. Correct? That's what you're saying.
Ang hindi naman, Mr.
Sila yung
Chair,
nagkukulang.
what I'm saying is that pag hindi kasi on board sa NSW, what we do is manual verification. So our personnel would go to
Ano na? Palala.
Mr. Chair, manual kami pag hindi boarded or hindi active yung isang government regulating agency. So kami kasi hindi kami regulating agency. So we just implement yung mga pinapayagan na importations of all the regulating agencies. That's why we have this National Single Window Program.
Likewise, to wrap up na ba, Mr. Chair, I hope to understand ang BOC will be essential, the SRA, the stakeholders, in the success of the sugarcane industry's revitalization. Mr. Chair, kaya nga po natin, nung pinasa po natin anti-agriculture smuggling law, we made this a heinous crime because we consider this an economic sabotage. Every time smuggled products enter the country, no? Be it bigas man yan, asukal, sibuyas, ngayon po pati galunggong. Pag pumasok po yan, bagsak ang presyo ng mga produkto lokal. That's why, siyempre, apektado ang farmers, mababawasan ang kanilang purchasing power, pero kung magandang kita, may pera sila, magandang takbo ng ekonomiya. Kaya nga ginawa natin economic sabotage. Hindi po ako galit sa BOC. I'm just, siyempre, I'm just frustrated as authors of these two measures, no, that are really designed to revitalize our local industry. Humingi lang ako ng tulong on what the BOC can do, plan of action on how we really can stop smuggling. I think this is the key, Mr. Chairman, for the President's instruction for food sufficiency. We really have to stop smuggling, if possible, and regulate importation. We only import what is necessary, yung talagang kailangan lang. Ubusin muna natin yung local produce. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
I was just conferring with the committee secretary. Let the records reflect that I have just signed the subpoena juices tecum and ad testificandum directing the executive secretary, Victor Rodriguez, to appear before this committee. We will just await the signature of the Senate President, but this should be issued immediately by the Sergeant at Arms to be given to the Executive Secretary.
Tihida, Your Honor.
Tihida, ang tinatanong namin kanina, napirmahan na ba nung mga SRA, yung papadalang sulat dito, wala pa rin?
Wala pa po, sir. I was just about to
Draft pa rin.
to ask for a reply. It was sent, Your Honor, just confirming
Tagal
the...
naman ipadala yun, email.
Yes, sir.
Sandali lang sa email.
Yes, Your Honor. I already communicated with the
Mga
Office of the
SO number
Administrator.
5 na yan.
Hindi po, sir.
So, you want to reply to
Yes, sir. If I may, sir.
The comment of the Deputy Commissioner?
Yes, sir, if I may.
And it has something to do with your role as SRA?
As far as the clearances is concerned, Your Honor, if I may.
Can that be brief?
Yes, Your Honor. We thank the BOC for stating that we are now on board in the National Single Window. But, of course, we also encourage the Bureau of Customs to involve us actively by way of coordinating first before conducting inspections, because what happens really is that they would coordinate only after the raid, and it only would turn out that these shipments have been cleared by the office. So we would have saved all those stakeholders at least the opportunity to defend themselves, had it been that we were involved before, not after, because we would also like to encourage the BOC to also process with dispatch all our clearances and our certifications, because as it turns out again, we would already readily certify, but it would turn out to be late for them to dispose of the case. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We note that. Mr. Lamata, this is a rebuttal to what SRA said, or in addition to what the Bureau of Customs stated a while ago? Where are you coming from?
Okay, I would just like to request your good honor for me to clear my name. Because
Your name was never besmirched here.
no, sir.
We gave you several opportunities to speak, and I think your name is scot-free and clean.
I know po. What I mean to say po, my name was mentioned last hearing po by Mr. Lobregat.
The tenor of I don't want the Blue Ribbon Committee to be a venue for name clearings. Blue Ribbon should be a venue for ferreting out the truth. But whatever a previous resource person mentioned during a previous hearing relative to the personality, character of another resource person is up for the committee itself to determine its veracity. But I'll give you an exception. Tell me now, tell the committee now, truthfully, what was the mudslinging all about?
Well, let me rephrase po. I would just like to put on record that the gentleman from Bukidnon was saying that there is no more sugar and there is no more in the Palenque. And I would just like to state that in a stakeholders meeting in Malacanang 2 weeks ago.
Can you have the dates? So again, I am also confused about the date. So, what you are trying to imply right now, insinuate before the committee, is indeed there was a shortage.
That is what this gentleman was wanting to say.
Saying now is that there was no shortage.
There is none.
Can you repeat that?
There is no shortage.
Even as we speak, there is no shortage.
There is none.
Artificial or otherwise.
There's not. Artificial, yes. But there is no actual shortage.
So you are in concurrence with the speech of the Senate President.
Definitely.
That there was hoarding that resulted into artificial shortage, and the artificial shortage resulted into price escalation.
That is correct, po.
So, one other sentence to clear your name. You may proceed.
Okay. I think he mentioned that I am giving false information to the palace in regards to sugar stocks. And lo and behold, when during that meeting where URC, Lance Gokongwei, VMC, and Pure Gold were asked to help, but these three persons gave 3 million kilos of sugar and to sell it at 70 pesos. They all agreed to do that. And it was the turn of Mr. Lobregat when asked by the President, and he said he has not a single bag of sugar in his bodega. And lo and behold, after 1 week, his bodega was raided, 460,000 bags of sugar was in his bodega. So he's not telling the truth. There is no shortage because he has a lot of sugar in his bodega. And my name was mentioned because he was insinuating that I was giving wrong information to the palace, which I never even talked to the palace. It was he. He was asked by the President if he had sugar. Nobody else. So he's the one who put himself in a spot.
So if there is sugar shortage, that is the reason behind the aborted SO4 to import, right?
Yes, po.
Okay. That's clear now. I have, before we suspend for a while, I have 1 or 2 questions directed to Yusek Sebastian. Isimplihin ko na lang po ito. Alam nyo, Yusek, naguguluhan po ako dito sa nabanggit kanina na September 29, if there was really a stakeholders meeting, may nangyari ba? Sabi kanina, pwedeng magbigay sa amin ng minutes. Ang Attorney Tihida, can you provide us the minutes of that July 29 meeting?
I shall request with the Office of the Administrator if there is.
Yes. The reason why I am raising this, because for SO number 4, the reason was Odette, Typhoon Odette, di ba? Bumagyo, nasira yung ating ilang sugar plantation, kaya kailangan tayong mag-angkat. And I'm aware of Typhoon Odette. Nakarating yung grupo ko sa Kabangkalan, sa Negros, tumulong din tayo ron. But I'm very concerned with what July 29, 2022 stakeholders meeting is all about. The records will reflect. The records will show. Yusek Sebastian, July 29, ikaw pa ang Yusek nun. Diba?
Yes, Your Honor.
Noong July 28, 27, leading to July 29 stakeholders meeting, ano po yung pinagkakaabalahan nyo bago po magkaroon itong public consultation?
I did not participate in the public consultation, Your Honor.
But you are aware. You are
yes,
aware of that.
but my affidavit will indicate to you that even before July 29, I already tabled as one of the agenda the sugar situation.
And when you say even before July 29, you're referring to July 28, 27, 26, siguro. You can refresh your recollection. You have in front of you your sworn statement.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ano nangyari nung 26 ano yung naging role mo dito sa SRA meeting if there is indeed a consultation kasi nung nandito si Attorney Beltran ang sabi niya 1 hour na lang daw po nagpirma na siya inisig na kahit sa marginal note. So try to I'm giving you time. Refresh your memory. Yeah, leading to 29.
Okay, Your Honor. In my affidavit says here, on July 18, 2022, one of the agenda I tabled for the second presidential briefing with the President.
That was when? The date again?
July 18.
July 18.
One of the agenda I tabled for the second presidential briefing for the President as Secretary of Agriculture was the sugar situation. However, because of the lack of time during that meeting, it was postponed to August 1, Your Honor.
August 1.
But we already prepared all the briefing materials on sugar at that time.
During that time, you were acting as the Chief of Staff and Senior Undersecretary, am I correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, the reason why I'm trying to refresh your memory is that there were events, series, that should have triggered your participation being the Chief of Staff. If you recall, again, I state this for the record, the basis of SO3 was Typhoon Odette. Bumagyo. If I'm not mistaken, all of us in this room are aware of what happened last July 27. Lumindol. Lumindol sa Abra, lumindol sa Norte, naramdaman sa Metro Manila. Di ba? Okay. Lumindol sa July 27, and I have here documents coming from the NDRIMC, and you should have been part of the NDRIMC. Tinawag lahat kayo for a meeting sa Camp Aguinaldo. Tinawag lahat kayo. I am surprised still right now. Nung tinawag, umattend po ba kayo sa Camp Aguinaldo meeting na NDRIMC?
No, Your Honor.
Sino umattend?
Is that July 27, Your Honor?
July 27, Lumindol. Alam lahat nandun dito.
Yes, but I was not...
Din po itong building na to.
I was not able to attend that,
Naramdaman niyo
Your
yung Lindol?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. So, under existing laws, yung NDRIMC law, part kayo ng NDRIMC. Ang role ng Department of Agriculture, ang role ng DSWD, etc., is to provide the immediate update. Ilan ang casualties? Ilan ang nasirang dam? Ilan ang nasirang irigasyon? Ilan ang nasirang mga halaman? Alam niyo po, nakita kong records? Hindi ko alam kung sinong pina-attend nyo sa NDRIMC meeting. Ang pinadala, ang lumabas po sa records, nasa website ito ng NDRIMC, and I'd like the Committee Secretary to capture this digitally and have this marked as an exhibit coming from the DA group, A, serially numbered sequentially. Alam niyo nakalagay dito? Damages, 0. Damages sa agriculture, 0. Ito po ay July 27. The records will show, and the media can attest to this. July 28, the Secretary of Agriculture, the President himself, and he should be commended for this, went to Abra. Nasa dyaryo yon. As Chief of Staff, boss, baka tinamaan yung isang dam natin. Bakit ko po binabanggit ito? July 28 na nun si Presidente, very concerned, pumunta sa Abra para tingnan yung damages, search and rescue pa tayo. Anong pinag-aabalahan nyo? You were drafting SO number 4. Nasabi nyo, nagkaroon ng July 29 meeting pa, stakeholders meeting, na kanino ko pa hinahanap yung minutes. Bakit po, sa gitna ng trahedya, July 27, lumindol, ang daming patay sa norte, sa Abra, Mountain Province, Kalinga, ay nauna pa natin isipin itong pagtuloy ng, kung nagkaroon nga ng stakeholders meeting, and I'm asking for the minutes, sa halip na magtrabaho kayo bilang katulong ng presidente, ay inuna nyo pa itong SO number 4. Di ba? It's for me, having been involved in several calamities in the country, is a great disservice to the country. We were still in a search and rescue mode. Kayo nagdadraft ng SO4. Apparently, sinabi nyo, meron kayong stakeholders meeting, July 29, 2 days after the earthquake. Paano nyo nagawa yun? That's why I need that copy of the minutes. May nagsasabi na, never nagkaroon ng stakeholders meeting.
Your Honor, can I explain? Yeah, July 27, we have the earthquake. I already called the regions, the DA regions, for some damage assessment. So in agriculture, you don't get the damage assessment immediately. But based on preliminary assessment, there was minimal damage. But on July 28, day after, I sent a message to ESB, Executive Secretary. No major damage on agriculture reported so far in affected areas. NFA has enough rice buffer stock. No addition in buffer stock prepositioned in affected areas. NFA lists NFA warehouses owned and leased have minimal reported damage. Mobile Kadiwa has been mobilized for deployment in affected areas.
You can provide the committee with those the
and
things
then,
that you've done.
And then I got a response from the Executive Secretary. Okay, please keep me posted and mobilize the entire DA for the post-earthquake response, monitoring and assistance in affected areas.
Again, how many times did you attend an NDRIMC meeting after that earthquake? Chief of Staff.
Your Honor, I did not attend any.
Who attended? Ang dami nating magsasaka sa norte. Si Presidente nga nagpunta sa Abra. Galing din ako ng Abra, pero late ako. So,
yes, Your Honor, but my role as the Chief of Staff was mobilize the DA bureaucracy to assist in the earthquake.
And by mobilizing, you are not even aware who the person you directed to attend the NDRIMC meeting is. If you were the real mobilizer.
I don't recall that.
No one was designated to be in charge of the NDRIMC coordinative meetings.
But the regions, Your Honor, were directed to coordinate with the other agencies as far as mobilization are concerned. The affected regions, so we have two affected regions at that time.
I know that. So we're now talking of July 28, and then that's the eve of July 29. You still proceeded, SRA still proceeded with the stakeholders meeting. Naguhukay pa tayo ng mga bangkay, kababayan natin sa Abra, naggagawa kayo ng SO4. Di ba napakalungkot yun?
Your Honor,
nagdadalamhati pa yung iba.
The
importation yung pinag-uusapan nyo.
There is a process for that, Your Honor. It's not one-day event.
Come to think of it, this is a great tragedy. Intensity 7. Ang lakas ng lindol, abot dito sa Quezon City, abot sa Maynila. Tapos, tuloy pa rin tayo sa SO4.
Your Honor, the consultation was done by SRA, not the Department of Agriculture. So this is a separate, this is a process that is being...
As the Chief of Staff, pwede naman sabihin, hold muna kayo dyan, dito muna tayo tulong muna tayo sa earthquake aftermath, coordinate all our efforts. I just raised that because I have been involved, immersed in all the disasters of this country. Nalungkot lang ako bakit kung kailan katatapos lang ng lindol, inuna pa ni SRA ang pagbalangkas ng sugar order number 4. Naguhukay pa ho yung ating mga rescue team sa Abra, sa Bangged, maging sa Mountain Province at ibang karatig na lugar. For the record, I show my disappointment on how you as the Chief of Staff acted. And even SRA, your response was not a response congruent with what happened. Ilan pa ba asukal natin dyan? May asukal pa ba tayo sa Ilocos? May asukal pa ba tayo sa Abra? May asukal. Ang naging response nyo ay tuloy yung ating stakeholders meeting kahit meron pang aftershocks. Tuloy yung SRO4.
Yeah, Your Honor, you must remember the Department of Agriculture is a big department and there are many events occurring every day that I have to manage. And sugar is just one of them.
Yes, that's why you should have been your involvement should have been triggered by the presence of the President himself to Abra as your boss. Pumunta siya doon eh. Dapat sumama ka doon pag-check meron ba mga nabasag na dam, meron bang nasirang mga irigasyon sa lakas ng lindol. But I have said everything relative to my pro-disaster advocacy. I just take note of that. Once an NDRIMC meeting notice is given to you, and this applies to all departments, you attend. You attend. That's part of your mandate. You attend para matapos yung assessments natin. The chair is suspending these proceedings for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, because we are about to, and I ask the media not to leave. We are about to culminate in a very important matter that would require the presence of some of my colleagues here. Isa na lang, bago siguro pumasok tayo doon. Itong Delmax Corporation, are you here? Mr. De Los Reyes? Yes. May maraming katanungan dito ha. Lumalabas, sinasabi, ikaw daw ang manipulator ng presyo. Ha? Totoo ba? Lumapit ka rito. Numpa ka na naman eh. Nag-oath ka na ba? Not yet. Can you administer daw? Sandali lang ito kasi may sinasabi ng iba, may karamdaman ka raw? Totoo ba yun? Wala. Can you raise your right hand? Administer the oath, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding? Thank you.
With the permission of my colleagues, nag-issue ka ng affidavit ngayon, pero tinanong ko ito last hearing, bakit yung mga ini-import mo ay sobra-sobra doon sa limit ng 15,000 metric tons? Bakit mataas yung sa'yo? Please state some of your personal circumstances, Mr. De Los Reyes. You're president of what? You represent what? How long have you been in the sugar industry?
Good morning, Senator Tolentino. Good morning, Your Honors. I am Rodolfo De Los Reyes. I am the president of Delmax Corporation. Delmax is a trading company that has been in operation for 22 years. We are primarily engaged in sugar trading, in export, import, and domestic trading. I would like to address your query, Senator Tolentino, about the volume of imports.
Yung sa'yo, sobra-sobra.
Okay. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak, Senator. Okay, SO3 was exclusively for the industrials. SO3 did not allow the traders to participate in the importation. As many as 54, 55, 56 industrial users applied and participated in SO3. The maximum that an industrial user can apply for is 15,000 metric tons. You can imagine that 200,000 tons of imports to be shared by 54, 55, 56 industrial users, the application was greatly oversubscribed, Senator, Your Honor. So the
What
200,000
do you mean by greatly,
oversubscribed because the total volume of imports for SO3 was 200,000 tons. It was for 200,000 tons, and SO3 was exclusively for the industrial users. Traders were not allowed to participate in SO3. So how many industrial users applied and participated in SO3? If I'm not mistaken, maybe 54, 55, or 56 participants. I'm sure.
But then again, Mr. De Los Reyes, before you can become an industrial user, you must be registered as an industrial sugar trader. Must be in good standing, etc., etc.
Not exactly, Your Honor.
So there is a provision of law, Section 3.1. The import program is open and voluntary to industrial users of refined sugar that are duly registered with the SRA as an industrial sugar trader in good standing. So
Correct.
not necessarily.
Correct. You're correct, sir.
So have
But
you just
if you
amended
read,
this?
no, if you read further, Senator, you'll see that there are some industrial users who are not registered as an international sugar trader.
But then again, they can.
But they can participate in SO3 even if they are not registered as an international sugar trader.
Dito na yung parang para yung assigner assignee ng
Okay.
SO4.
It's
so,
good.
You have now the discretion to involve other non-registered industrial users.
They are registered industrial users. They're not just registered as international sugar traders.
Yes. So kahit hindi ka registered under Section 3.1, na ipapasa yon. Kaya yung affidavit mo, kineclaim mo, nag-over ka.
No.
Ha?
Let me explain, Your Honor. Okay.
Teka muna, isang tanong na lang. Baka maunahan ako ni Senator Bato. Merong bang mga warehouse ka na na-raid na?
Yes, sir.
Ilang warehouse mo na-raid?
Isa po.
Isa. Ilan ang laman?
Approximately 10,000 tons.
10,000 tons. Ang nag-raid sa'yo, customs?
BOC was there.
Saan po to? Sa Ibaan?
Sa Ibaan po.
Sa Batangas?
Yes.
Ang layo So, ni-raid ka, nasaan na ngayon yung mga sukal?
The sugar is still there. We continue to deliver the sugar. Pakonti po ng pakonti yung stocks because every day po may delivery kami sa mga customers
Ilang
namin.
beses ka na na-raid? Sa 20 years mo na experience sa sugar industry?
Ngayon pa lang po.
Ngayon ka lang na-raid. So, ituloy mo to na yung sinasabi mo na yung batas para sa registered pero nagagamit kahit hindi registered.
Okay, please let me explain, sir.
Ito siguro yung circumvention dito na nagagawa ng paraan na ipapasa sa iba kahit hindi rehistrado. Paano mo ginagawa ito?
Let me explain, Your Honor.
Lumalabas, huwag ka magagalit. Ang lumalabas, ikaw daw yung price manipulator. Ayaw, hindi sa akin galing yan. Kaya gusto kong iklaro mo yung pangalan mo dito para lumabas ka naman ng maayos yung pangalan mo.
Gladly, Your Honor.
Please proceed.
Okay. So, there were 54, 55, 56 industrial users that applied to participate in SO3. The maximum of 15,000 tons is the maximum volume that an industrial user can apply for. Okay, the total quota is 200,000 tons. So, since there were 55 industrial users, SO3. So, itong total quota na 200,000 tons, this was allocated among the 55 applicants, industrial users. Okay, so there is not, I'll give you an example if I may. Coca-Cola applied for the full maximum volume of 15,000 tons. Okay, but after prorata, sa dami ng mga industrial users na nag-apply, ilan po ang nakuha ng Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola got After proration, less than 10,000 tons. Okay? So, there is not a
To
single...
abbreviate this, what you are saying that your current practice is correct.
I don't understand.
What you're saying is that the current practice of involving non-registered, which resulted in the above quota sugar importation, insofar as you're concerned, is not against the law.
Senator, this is not the practice. This is the very first time that the SRA allowed the industrial users to import directly. There has never been a time when the SRA allowed the industrial users to import, so hindi po ito practice.
The other industrial users use your company, Delmax, in their importation. First time?
First time. I'll explain, Senator.
And if it is the first time, you obliged to have that first time, even if it has not been that practice during your last 20 years. Why?
Can you repeat the question, sir?
Sabi mo first time ito na ginamit yung Delmax sa importation.
It's the first time that such an SO3 allowed industrial users. Delmax is not the only trader that was appointed. I wish I could get to that point, Senator. We are just there as appointed agents by the industrial users. And I want to explain why some of us need to be appointed.
Because
If I
others
may.
are not qualified or registered.
No, sir. Many of the
We
industrial
recognize the
users...
arrival of Senator Pimentel. This was his question before. I'm just pitching it for you. Perhaps you can elucidate this more clearly.
Okay.
Senator Pimentel will take over.
Okay. May I continue, sir? Yeah.
Just be brief. Answer
Okay,
my question.
many industrial users do not have the warehousing, the know-how, the logistical capabilities to do the imports themselves. Hindi po yan ang kanilang line of business. So these industrial users appoint. SO3 allows the industrial users to appoint their preferred or accredited trader supplier to do the imports for them. We bring the sugar in, we clear the goods through customs, we store the sugar in our warehouses, wala pang mga warehouse ang mga industrial users, and then we store the sugar for them, we deliver the sugar to them daily. This is the sugar that they consume for the next 2 or 3 months. So this is the service that we do for them,
In
sir.
hindsight, had SO4 been implemented fully,
Yes.
not declared as illegal,
Okay.
would you have been an assigner?
I don't know. There, eligibility-wise, there are 78 eligible participants to SO4 based on the SRA record of international sugar traders, and that includes millers, planters, traders, and industrial users. Sa dami po.
So this is another tweak of what transpired before coming from SO3. Am I correct? Ni-revise na yun eh.
I don't want to comment on SO4 po, but I want to continue explaining the role of
One
Delmax
last
and
question
why
before
we did
I
not.
turn this over to Senator Pimentel.
Okay.
Have you been meeting other members of SRA outside their offices or in other venue relative to your trade or practice?
No, Your Honor.
You have the floor. I promise the group that we will suspend in a few minutes, but we'll giving you time to ask 2 or 3 questions to Mr. De Los Reyes.
Well, my questions are really on in need of legislation on how to improve the composition of the SRA. Mabuti nandito na rin you're with the trader, no, Mr. De Los Reyes. We are currently drafting a bill to increase the membership of the SRA to represent the other stakeholders and we are actually debating in the office whether traders should be represented in the said SRA board. So may we get your opinion, Mr. De Los Reyes? How important is your role in the sugar industry as a trader? Kasi ngayon yata, ngayon as I understand it, natuto ako kay Admin Serapica noon, sabi niya, EO 18. Tapos, by virtue of EO 292. So, current composition, Secretary of Agriculture, Administrator of SRA, Planters Representative, Millers Representative. Is this sufficient representation of the stakeholders in the sugar industry? Tandaan mo, this is a Sugar Regulatory Administration. So, dapat representative. So, maybe nandiyan ka na rin, nakasalang ka na, Mr. De Los Reyes. So, opinion na on a matter of in aid of legislation.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. SRA is really composed of producers, no? You're correct. The planter rep and the SRA administrator has always been a planter as well. The miller rep represents the miller, so they are really representative of the producers and the producers only. But when you consider who are the stakeholders in the industry, then you have to include the traders, you have to include the consumers,
correct, the consumers,
and maybe, I don't know, the workers in the sugar industry. So it would not be a bad idea to include representation in the board for these sectors, because each one will have its own perspective and view of the industry. The producers traditionally see it from their side of production, but the consumers, the industrial users, are on the other end of that spectrum.
With the permission of Senator Pimentel, may I request Yusek Sebastian, the DTI representative, the customs representative, to transfer to this other side? Yes. I would want to have that side cleared because, as I've said, we are in the midst of culminating this hearing. So, also remove your leftovers, your ensimada. Sobrang sugar na yan. And your used bottled water. Can you clear that, Osa? Even the nameplates? Media, wag na kayong lalabas, Again, I reiterate for the record that we have, I have signed the subpoena for the Executive Secretary, Victor Rodriguez, for him to be hailed in the presence of the Blue Ribbon Committee. It has been signed. Senator Pimentel, you can proceed.
Okay, so thank you for the inputs, Mr. De Los Reyes. Tama po yun. Na pag-usapan na namin ng staff ko, consumers must be represented and they should be even be given more than one seat. Okay? Traders, industrial users, and then yung planters, I think it's about time that we have to divide it to the big ones and then the small ones, the small farmers. Kasi sa privilege speech mismo ng aming Senate President, sinabi niya na merong sugar farmers earning 2,500 pesos a month only. So these people should be represented in the said board. So we are preparing that and hopefully we can file it soon. Siguro the DTI can just write to my office yung how to choose the consumers representative or representatives. Kailangan mga siguro 1 to 3 seats yan. Ang consumer kasi actually nag-hearing naman tayo rito dahil sa reklamo sa babae na sobrang mahal na ng asukal. from the point of view of the households of the consumers. So sila po talaga ang pinakamahalaga po rito. So thank you, Mr. De Los Reyes, for that input, no? And Mr. Chairman, I think so we can pause for
Just to reiterate again my continuing request.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm following up with the Office of the Administrator. Your Honor. Yes, sir. The problem is that... Yes, Your Honor.
Hindi ka nakamike.
There is a letter relative to the inventory which I asked. So, kailan mo ba, baka ikaw ang maunang makontempt dito?
No, Your Honor, because it is with the admin office. I'm following it up, Your Honor.
Can we expect that when?
Can I have a 1 hour, Your Honor?
Sige, sige.
We can suspend for a while, Mr. Chairman.
We will proceed. Our next witness is here. We suspend for 1 minute. The Blue Ribbon Committee is now in order. We acknowledge the presence of the Executive Secretary, Attorney Victor Rodriguez. Thank you for coming. We also would like to acknowledge the good Senate President. He has an opening statement before the continuation of this hearing. The Senate President is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman. On the onset, I would just like to thank the Executive Secretary for accepting my invitation today. And to put on record, the President called me earlier this morning and said that he's sending the Executive Secretary today to participate in the deliberation to show sign of respect also to the Blue Ribbon Committee members. So I appreciate the call of the President, and I appreciate the call of ES Vic Rodriguez that he will attend in today's hearing. Hopefully it will put to rest any marites or chismis that he's avoiding and not wanting to comply or to answer questions from our distinguished colleagues. Again, my sincerest thanks to the Executive Secretary and to the President.
Thank you, Senate President Zubiri. I also would like to express our gratitude for the presence of the good Executive Secretary. Though we issued a subpoena earlier, it will clarify a lot of things. There were other contradictory statements issued by some resource persons a while ago, which will need to be clarified. Pressing issues for the day, Mr. Witness, are 2 items. 1, there were insinuations made, and it's part of the TSN by Yusek Sebastian, that there were signals, quote-unquote, emanating from your good office that triggered them to act in the manner that resulted in the aborted SO number 4. Number 2, Senator Ontiveros, and she will clarify this later, raised the issue as to whether the misperceptions, quote unquote, claimed by the SRA board members were triggered by communications, subliminal or otherwise, emanating from you. Number 3, just today, the former SRA head, Mr. Serapica, claimed that the original agreed upon importation number would be 600,000 metric tons, a far cry from the previous 300,000 or 150,000, plus other items that would be clarified emanating from your sworn statements. Again, we appreciate, we reiterate our appreciation and gratitude for your attendance today. Mr. Executive Secretary, you have the floor. And our ears, and our undivided attention, and the general public as well. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. To the Senate President, Senator Mig Zubiri, to the Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, Senator Francis Tolentino, to the Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture, the Honorable Senator Cynthia Villar, to the other members of the of the Senate. Good morning to all of you, Your Honors. And before I begin, I would like to sincerely apologize if there is we have to resort to the issuance of a subpoena to compel my presence today. I have no intention whatsoever to disrespect the honorable members of the Senate and the Senate as an institution. And that is why immediately when I learned that a subpoena was issued, I don't want to, but I have to inform His Excellency, even if he is on a state visit, and immediately he asked me to forthwith see the Senate President and immediately be present in today's Blue Ribbon Committee hearing, Your Honors. Again, my apologies, Your Honors, sirs and ma'am. For the pressing matter that was mentioned by the Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, first on the signal that triggered the passage of SO4, I definitely deny that there was a signal coming from my end that, or I have given them the go-ahead to pass that resolution or the sugar order number 4, calling for the importation of more or less 300,000 metric tons of sugar. For the pressing matter number 2, that was raised by the Honorable Ontiveros, if I may, sir,
please proceed, please proceed.
Regarding the communication, I didn't get it completely, sir. I apologize.
Second part, and this can be clarified by Senator Ontiveros, was that the SRA board members then, I'm referring to Mr. Serapica, Beltran, and Valderrama, apparently understood, coming from a meeting, I just heard an online meeting, that they should proceed with an import plan cum SO number 4, even if there is a provision that calls for an approval and a reprobation item in another section. So, can we ask Senator Ontiveros to clarify that briefly? Baka mali yung rephrasing ko nung pangalawang tanong. We take advantage of the presence of Executive Secretary Rodriguez. Ano po yung tinatanong nyo noon? Briefly, para hindi na natin ulitin yung nasagot kanina.
Salamat, Mr. Chair, at magandang tanghali din po, Mr. Executive Secretary. It's good to see you here finally po to clarify these questions. Actually, Mr. Chair, hindi ko nakuha masyadong klaro yung pag-summarize nyo ng second point, but if I pick up some of the pieces of the question of the good chair, yung isa ay may kinalaman dun sa memorandum from the Office of the Executive Secretary dated July na nagbibigay ng some delegated powers to the former SRA head or suspended, presently preventively suspended SRA head Yusek Sebastian on behalf of the President as a DA Yusek and particularly as head of the SRA, subject to the review and reprobation of the President. Yun po ba, Mr. Chair? Although wala naman ako po akong tanong tungkol doon, I made it of record also that in fact, it would seem na sina Yusek Sebastian et al. Acted on the basis of that memorandum from your office. Salamat, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Executive Secretary, you can reply.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding if they have acted on the basis of the memorandum issued, granting additional or delegating additional authority to the Senior Undersecretary Sebastian then, Your Honor, we made it very clear to them that we are requiring for the submission of an import plan prior to the passage of a sugar order. And as I have mentioned during my appearance last August 23, that we were still in the process of determining the basis of their suggestion on whether to import 300,000 metric tons of sugar or not. Ang gusto hong malaman ng Pangulo, unang-una, ano ang nangyari, consumed na ba yung 200,000 metric tons? At kung ito'y na-consume na, ano ang ating magiging basihan kung bakit tayo mag-i-import uli based on the proposed SO4, kaya ho kami humihingi ng import plan. Wala po, Your Honor, na pagkakasunduan o naaprobahang import plan, kaya wala pa hong basihan din yung pagpasa nila ng SO4. Dahil hindi pa ho nila mabigay yung essentially process of liquidating yung 200,000 metric tons na produkto po ng SO3. Nandoon pa lamang ho kami, kaya nga ho nagulat kami pareho ng ating Pangulo, bakit nagpasa ng SO4 at bakit 300,000 metric tons ang ipinipilit na ating iangkat muli.
Mr. Chair, if I may as a follow-up.
Is this related to the...
Yes, to this question, Mr. Chair. Salamat po. I would like po to read a portion of the testimony of the good Executive Secretary himself when he appeared before the Blue Ribbon regarding that August 4 meeting. I'm reading here from pages 153 to 154 nung nagbigay ng presentation si ES sa Blue Ribbon. Sabi dito, this is the transcript of what the good ES told the committee. On August 4 Thursday, in a meeting again in Malacanang, we were told by Yusek Leo Sebastian that as of 3 August 2022, or the day before the meeting, the SRA has reclassified 62,000 kilos of sugar from C to B. In a meeting with then SRA Administrator Serapica, and in the presence of my Senior Deputy Executive Secretary, the Deputy Executive Secretary for Finance and Administration, and the Deputy Secretary for Legal Affairs, and as well as the presence of Dr. Molly Chong, the President of the PITC, I asked for the specifics on the status of the 200,000 metric tons sugar, part of sugar order number 3, and on that occasion, 4 August, many figures were given, but seemingly, the former administrator himself is uncertain or unsure of what he was citing or what he cited. The meeting concluded with the following matters for action. I, meaning the ES, I specifically requested that in the event there is really a need for the government to resort to another round of sugar importation, I asked for the import plan. I also asked who will be accredited and an answer to our query if the PITC may import on behalf of industrial and for home consumption sugars. And finally, if we may be given a draft sugar order for their proposed 300,000 metric tons new round of importation. So I'm asking the good ES, Mr. Chairman, to confirm to the committee, confirm again, since it is in our transcript, if indeed he told the committee when he first appeared, made the presentation to us, that in that meeting, malinaw po sa transcript, mayroon na pong pinag-usapang 300,000 metric tons na babanggitin sa importation plan, which in SRA language is importation program, which is embodied in a draft sugar order. Meron na pong 300,000 na binanggit, Mr. Chair.
Senator Teveras, in effect, what you are asking from the good executive secretary is to reaffirm the words coming from his sworn statement.
Yes, Mr. Chair, which actually contradict what he just told us now, na walang pinag-usapang amount. Pero mismo sa kanilang presentation last time, nasa transcript ng Blue Ribbon, ito nga po yung isang follow-up question ko sana. Do you confirm that you heard the proposal to import 300,000 metric tons? Dahil nasa transcript na po ng Blue Ribbon nung una kayong nag-present, good ES, na may amount na pinag-uusapan at pinag-iisipan noon na 300,000 metric tons, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Executive Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Senator. Mr. Chair, wala hong debate at hindi ko ho tinatanggi na simula pa lamang ay yung amount na 300,000 metric tons ay isinusulong na ng SRA Board. Yun nga ho yung dahilan kung bakit kami humihingi ng import plan so that they can justify why they are so fixated with 300,000 metric tons of importation. That will be the subject matter of DSO4. I am not denying, Mr. Chairman, that the amount in terms of quantity of 300,000 metric tons has been mentioned many times. And that is precisely why we are asking them to submit to us an import plan so that they can justify. Why 300,000 metric tons? Why not 250? Why not 200? Why not 150? Nandoon pa lamang ho kami, kagalang-galang na senador. At yes, I affirm, lahat po ng nakalagay doon sa transcript, it's essentially the same as what I have written here in my notebook, that the meeting concluded with the following matters for action. Number one, the import plan. Two, kung sino ho yung ma-accredit at kung masagot nila yung katanungan kung maaari bang mag-import mismo ang PITC on behalf of the industrial and for home consumption. At yun nga ho, yung draft sugar order for the proposed 300,000 metric tons. Again, bakit po 300,000? Because that amount, that quantity, ay galing po sa kanila paulit-ulit yan. But we will rely essentially on the import plan if they can justify it or if we ourselves can be convinced na kinakailangan nga 300,000 metric tons ang ating iangkat. Dagdag ko lamang ho, para lang din po siguro klaro, wala rin naman hong debate kung dapat tayong mag-angkat o hindi. Dapat po tayong mag-angkat. Nahinto lamang po kami, Your Honors, kung magkakano in terms of quantity yung ating dapat iangkat.
Mr. Chair. Yes, of course. Yes, of course.
Thank you, my dear colleague. So, ang lumalabas sa Executive Secretary, bukang bibig ng SRA yun. Yung 300,000. They kept mentioning it in the meeting.
Tama po yun, Mr. Senate President. Tama po yun, Your Honor, na yung 300,000 metric tons, hindi po nanggaling sa amin yung amount na yan at kami nga ay nagtatanong bakit 300,000 metric tons. And again, I saw it also in my notes that in the meeting held on August 4 in my office, Your Honors, ang sinasabi nga namin, pinag-uusapan namin noon, nung dating administrator ng SRA na si Mr. Administrator Serapica, can you just please show us paanong naubos o yung liquidation ng 200,000 metric tons? In fact, ang tanong ko ho noon, yung 200,000 metric tons ba, lahat yan ay landed. Ang sagot po, 62% yan ay landed. And we computed more or less 130,000. Nasaan yung kulang na 70? Para alam natin bakit ang presyo ay nasa 110, 115 per kilo. Meron ba talagang shortage? At ang tugon ho niya, nag-reclassify lamang ho kami a week back or few days back ng 62,000 metric tons. So, kako, simple math, yung 130,000 metric tons plus 62, 192 na. At saan ngayon mapupunta yung binabanggit ninyo na meron pang 35,000 metric tons in transit papunta sa isang warehouse for reclassification? Put them all together, 130 more or less, 62,000 metric tons more or less, plus yung 35,000 na sinasabi mo, kako, so sobra tayo sa 200,000 metric tons. Sabi ko sa kanya, yan ang mga importanteng detalye na gusto sanang makita ng Pangulo. Bago tayo mag-finalize, kung magkakano, again, in terms of quantity, yung dapat ho nating i-import, Your Honors, please.
Mr. Chair, one follow-up question about this particular...
Then the Senate President would like to interject.
Yes, Mr. Chair. As the SP and I have both noted, kinonfirm ni ES na may pinag-usapan at pinag-iisipang amount na 300,000 metric tons dun sa pulong na iyon noong August 4. As the ES also confirmed earlier and recorded already in the transcript of the Blue Ribbon, there was an instruction to the SRA to draft an import plan, which is an import program, which is a draft sugar order. Huling follow-up sa puntong ito, ES, was there any opposition mentioned in that meeting to the proposal to import 300,000 metric tons? Sabi nyo nga po kanina, ES, ito yung proposal, ito yung rekomendasyon ng SRA, sabi po nila, batay sa mga rekomendasyon ng mga stakeholders. But in that meeting po, was there any opposition expressed by the good ES or the President or any other person participating to the proposal to import 300,000 metric tons of sugar, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Your Honor. May opposition po at ang opposition ho mismo ay galing sa amin. Yun nga ho yung sinasabi namin, bakit 300,000 metric tons yung pilit ninyong binabanggit na amount of importation. Kaya nga po, let me be respectfully, let me be very clear again, that is why we were asking for an import plan. Yung import plan, nandun po sana yung detalye. And then, pati nga ho yung mekanismo, dahil sila naman ho talaga ang nakakaalam, paano ba yung accreditation ninyo ng trader na pwede mag-import, paano yung distribution ninyo ng X amount of metric tons, paano magkaanong in terms of quantity kay trader A, B, C, D, E, o kung pwede ang industrial user mismo diretso mag-import. Yun po yung aming pinag-uusapan pa noon. At yun po yun. At we objected doon sa initial amount of 300,000 metric tons. And yung sinasabi po natin na gumawa sila ng draft sugar order for the proposed 300,000 metric ton, purposely, so we can makumpara po namin, Your Honors, yung import plan mo dito sa ginigiit mong draft SO na 300,000 metric tons. Para meron naman ho kami ibabanggang mga dokumento. Bakit ba naman, just in case, bakit ba sa import plan mo ito lang ang linalabas? Bakit ba dito sa draft SO mo ito pinipilit mo? Yun lang naman ho po yun, Your Honors.
For the record, Mr. Chair, before I end this line of questioning, yung sinabi ni ES nung kanilang presentation noon sa transcript ng Blue Ribbon na, and finally, if we may be given a draft sugar order for their proposed 300,000 metric tons new round of importation, doesn't sound like an objection. At most, clarification. Kasi kung nag-o-object talaga, tumututol talaga, ayaw talaga, I don't think government would even ask for a draft of a sugar order. Ayon po kay ES, they oppose the 300,000. It seems there's a confusion po, Mr. Chair, as to what the President intended. So, para lang po malinaw talaga, definitely sa Blue Ribbon, I respectfully move to subpoena the Zoom recording of the August 4th meeting with the President, the ES, former Board Member Valderrama, and former Administrator Serapica. I so move, Mr. Chair.
Senator Tiveros, I think that will have to be discussed again by the committee because these are confidential statements now. In an in-camera hearing, we will discuss whether we have the right to subpoena and retrieve via subpoena duces tecum without violating the confidentiality or privileged communications between the chief executive himself and his subalterns, and without violating perhaps Data Privacy Act provisions. So
I submit,
we
Mr.
will have to
Chair.
discuss that, Senator Ontiveros.
I submit, Mr. Chair, subject to making another motion at the
Yes,
proper
yes,
time,
yes.
just to help really settle these seemingly hindi po nagtutugmang mga statements. Salamat, Mr. Chair.
But the good executive secretary already affirmed twice the contents of his previous statements. So the Senate President is recognized.
No, I'd like to confirm what the ES had said, because in a meeting in Malacanang, I don't know what date that was when you called us ES to help with the stakeholders. Do you recall that date? Was it August, second week of August?
Your Honor, I think it was during the oath-taking of the BARM officials, Your Honor.
That's correct.
I'm not
forget
sure
the date.
exactly the date, exactly when.
August 17, according to my staff. August 17, the President was present in that meeting together with the stakeholders. And I'd like to quote what the President said. Nung pinag-usapan daw nila ito doon sa August 4 meeting, ang sabi ng Pangulo ay, ganun ba karaming kailangan natin i-import? Exact words of the President. He asked the SRA that, ganun ba karaming kailangan natin ma-import? Baka naman mas konti. That's what the President, and I have a witness here, Mr. William Chua was here, some of the stakeholders are in this room, and they were present in that meeting. And I'd like them to confirm also, maybe later on the sideline, that the President had said that. The President had questioned the number that the SRA was floating around. So, whether my dear colleague will believe me or not, Senator Risa will believe me or not, yan ang sinabi ng Pangulo, and I believe him. Because bukang bibig niya dun sa kampanya namin ay uunahin niya kapakanan ng mga magsasaka. At ang sabi pa ng Pangulo, let us frown upon importation, let us strengthen our farmers so that we can be self-reliant on our food security. Yan ang bukang bibig niya tuwing umiikot kami. So when he said that in our August 17 meeting, that he was aghast and saying to the SRA, ganun ba karaming kailangan natin import? Yan ang tanong ni Pangulo. So, I believe that the number did not come from the Executive Secretary nor the President. And it was coming from the SRA. For the record, Your Honor, I can only give you what I know from this August 17 meeting with the President that told me. For the record of this hearing.
Thank you, Senate President. Unless there are other questions related to the previous statement of the Executive Secretary, my advice to our colleagues is that we limit ourselves to the four corners of the sworn statement plus other matters that arose from this hearing. More importantly, more pointedly, the claim of former Administrator Serapica. And we're now shifting to, with the permission of Senator Pimentel, we're now shifting to item 3. That there was the claim of Mr. Serapica is that it was not 300,000 but 600,000. Mr. Serapica, are you still online? Are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm still here.
Pakiulit yung sinabi mo na ang pinaplano nyo ay 600,000. Totoo ba yun?
Hindi ko po yung sinabi ang plano.
Sinabi mo yung kanina.
Hindi po.
We have your tape testimony. You were under oath. We have the transcript of stenographic notes here that I even asked you kanina. I was the one who asked you. I think that was an hour ago. I have the time here. I even asked you, bakit ngayon lang lumabas yung 600,000? Na hindi mo sinabi. Pinagpapawisan ka ngayon. Hindi ko alam kung walang aircon dyan sa likod mo. 600,000, tapos sinabi mo online, Ngayon, sinasabi mo, hindi mo sinabi yon. We can
Hindi
replay
ko po
that.
sinabi nga 600 po yung
Sinabi mo
pinopropose
yun.
ko po.
Mr. Chair.
Ang dami nakarinig no kanina. It's not me against you. Even the media can show that. If i-play sa'yo yun, you mentioned 600,000 metric tons. Saan mo nabunot yun? Tapos ngayon, dinideny mo na.
Mr.
Hindi ko po
Chair.
yun sinabi, Mr. Chair.
Kung nandito ka lang sa premises ng Senado, pinakulong ka na namin dito. Pero sinabi mo yung kanina, ang pinalalabas mo ngayon, ako yung nagsisinungaling?
Hindi po ganyan yung pagsabi ko po, Mr. Chair.
Ano yung sinabi mo?
Yung with due respect sa mahal na Pangulo po, yung sinabi niyang 600,000 metric tons, sabi ko po, Mr. President, that may be too much kasi nagbukas na po yung first farmers ng kanilang pag-accept ng canes at saka mag-mail na po yung
Mr. Chairman, ayaw na nga ng Presidente ng 300,000 metric tons, 600,000 pa. I don't believe the President had said that. Impossible. The President will not come up with a figure on the top of his mind. You better clarify, Mr. Serapica, you are very close to being cited for contempt.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the 300,000...
Yes, but let the records reflect, the TSN would bear me out, na sinabi mo yon. I even commented, ngayon ko lang narinig yung 600,000 metric tons, ngayon ko lang narinig yung online. Ang sinabi ko pa, wag mong gamitin yung Pangulo. Sinabi mo, sumagot ka uli. Sabi mo, 600,000 metric tons. Now you are denying that and impliedly saying that either we are deaf here, all of us here are deaf, or I am lying.
Yung 600,000 po yan, Mr. Chair, hindi po yan galing sa akin po. Yung 600,000 na yan, hindi galing po yan sa akin. Yung binanggit po ni Presidente ng 600,000, sabi ko po na Mr. President, that might be too much. Yun ang sabi ko po.
What you're saying now is that it never came from you, but from another source, the Chief Executive himself. Perhaps the good Executive Secretary can affirm whether that came from the President himself or Mr. Serapica is telling us false truths, half lies, or what? Executive Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wala hong binabanggit na amount in terms of quantity si kagalang-galang na Pangulo Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. pagdating doon sa metric tons na dapat iangkat. Kaya po tayo naipit doon sa import plan pa lamang dahil hindi nga ho kami kumbinsido sa 300,000 metric tons. Again, let me be very clear, Your Honors, wala hong debate na dapat tayo ay mag-angkat. Wala pong debate na dapat tayo mag-import. Nahinto na lamang po kami kung magkakano talaga yung amount na dapat nating iangkat. At wala pong katotohanan na nanggaling kay Pangulong Marcos yung 600,000 metric tons. I would like to join the manifestation of the good Senator, the Senate President, kung yung 300,000 metric tons nga ho ay hindi kumbinsido ang Pangulo, bakit naman niya sasabihin 600,000 metric tons? And fact of the matter, Your Honors, there is already a SO1 and SO2 passed by the new board. Ang iaangkat nga lamang ho natin ay 150,000 metric tons. Malayong-malayo po doon sa sinabi kanina ng dating SRA Administrator na 600,000 metric tons.
I'd just like to add, Mr. Chairman, sa ilang hearing na po ito, pangatlong hearing na po ito, bakit ngayon lang niya binanggit yun? Dapat sa naunang hearing pa lang, binanggit niya na yun. Where does this supposed number come from and where is it coming from? Ako, dudang-duda ako dito, Mr. Chairman. I don't know why this kind of information was put in play, maybe to muddle all these discussions. But why did he just come up with this now and now he's denying it?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Tiberas, is this related to... Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Someone is about to be cited in contempt, but there is a recording of the Zoom meeting, and that recording can put these issues to rest. So siguro, Mr. Chair, kahit si Chair lang po ay makapanood noon or at least makatanggap ng transcript nung meeting na yon to set these issues to rest. That would be the only way to validate. At gusto ko pa rin i-appreciate the fact na si former Administrator Serapica is appearing for the third time and answering questions of the Blue Ribbon Committee, not for the first time alone. Meron din silang sinumite September 2 na supplemental affidavit. And ako nga po, Mr. Chair, kung nandun ako sa meeting na iyon, I would not take it against the President kung meron silang babanggitin, hindi iuutos, kundi babanggitin or naiisip na 600,000. Marami pong stakeholders sa industry at sa buong bansa natin na maaring dumulog kay Presidente with this or that proposal, this or that amount. Ang importante para sa akin ay kung nabanggit man ni Presidente na it was in his mind at all, kailangan ba ng 600,000, yung sinabi pareho ni dating Administrator Serapica at dating Board Member or ni Mr. Serapica rather, kinonfirm ni dating Board Member Valderrama na masyadong malaki iyon. And klaro, pati dun sa sinabi ni ES na ang pinadraft nilang sugar importation plan or program or order ay for 300,000 lang. So, kaya po, Mr. Chair, napaka-importante nung August 4 meeting na iyon na kahit si Chair na lang ang makapanood or makabasa ng record nung meeting na iyon to set these issues to rest at para klaro kung papaano na-set originally yung proposal at 300,000, eventually naging 150,000 ngayon, and if at any time any stakeholder appeal to the President for an amount of 600,000, there's no crime in that. Gusto lang natin sa komite kompletohin yung kwentong ito. And Chair, I'm sorry, I need to pull out at this point. I apologize to the Chair and to SP and my colleagues, to the ES and all of our resource persons, including Yusek Sebastian and Administrator Serapica and Board Member Valderrama. I have a victim survivor of sexual abuse, sexual violence waiting for me in another committee.
The committee notes
Marami pong salamat, Mr. Chair.
Senator Ontiveros, but the Chair is now constrained to recall to the witness table, Mr. Manuel Lamata. Can you be seated with the indulgence of our colleagues and the Executive Secretary? Mr. Lamata, you stated under oath that the claim of Mr. Serapica relative to the 300,000 metric ton was pre-approved, and you rebutted this a while ago. Can you repeat that for the benefit of some of our colleagues who just arrived? Yung section number 29 of the supplemental affidavit of Mr. Serapica that was just executed 2 September 2022. There is no, Mr. Serapica claimed that there is no truth to the allegation of you, Mr. Lamata, that it was made to appear that the 300,000 metric tons was already approved by the President. Can you repeat what you said 30 minutes ago?
Again, good afternoon to this honorable court. Committee pa. During those times when the sugar prices in the retail stores were very high.
No. What I'm saying is this. Yung sinabi ba ni Mr. Serapica dito na sinasabing nagsisinungaling ka ay tama o mali? Sino ang nagsisinungaling?
Siya ang sinungaling po. Serapica. He is a liar.
Because of?
There's no truth to whatever he said. There is no shortage. That's number one.
Mali.
Ay, mali yun.
Because?
Because there's no truth to it. There's no truth to it, Mr. Senator.
Thank you, Mr.
Maraming salamat.
We now recognize Attorney Victor Rodriguez, the Executive Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, if the alleged Zoom or video meeting took place, and if I get the date correctly mentioned by the Honorable Senator Risa Ontiveros, was August 4. Let it be put on record, Mr. Chairman. Noong August 4 po, wala po kaming Zoom meeting ni Mr. Serapica. He was in my office, Your Honors. He was physically present in my office, and that is contained in my statement during my first appearance in this Honorable Blue Ribbon Committee. He was in my office, and we were discussing precisely if he could liquidate the 200,000 metric tons product of SO3. Nandoon po siya sa aking tanggapan. At yun din po yung aking statement na ang kaharap po niya ay ang aking Senior Deputy Executive Secretary, ang aking Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal, at ang aking Deputy Executive Secretary for Finance, at nandun din ho yung Pangulo ng PITC na si Dr. Molly Chong. I would just want to make this clear because the name of the President is unnecessarily being dragged by the former SRA administrator. And as the Executive Secretary, I will not allow that, Your Honors, please.
So to repeat this, to clarify this once and for all, there was no Zoom online meeting on 4 August 2022 as claimed by Mr. Serapica. ES, wala nangyaring ganon.
It cannot be, Your Honor, because he was in my office.
And you cannot be physically present in an office and Zoom at the same time.
And he was just seated like this, Your Honor.
So Mr. Serapica, can you clarify this once and for all? Ang dami mo nang sinasabing nakakalito na.
Yes,
Mr.
that's
Serapica,
correct.
are you still there?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Wala daw Zoom meeting. Ano yung sinasabi mong Zoom meeting?
Mr. Chair, I was in the office of E.S. Rodriguez, but the President and former board member Valderrama were in a Zoom meeting joining us, Mr. Chair. That was after lunch.
Mr. Chairman, hybrid ang meeting nila.
Is it correct? Yes, was there a hybrid?
Let me check, Your Honor, just to be precise. But I'm sure that August 4, he was in my office. Yes, after lunch, because it's in my notebook, Your Honor. I'm in the habit of taking notes of all that's happening in my presence. In fact, Your Honor, one of the subject matter that I've raised then, as of 1:30 p.m., August 4, he was seated in front of me, the former SRA administrator. I told him, how come last July 24, there are confusing figure posted on your SRA website? Sabi doon sa website mo, meron ka pang 160,992 metric tons of raw sugar and for domestic production. And also on the same day, July 24, napansin ka ako ng mga staff ko, meron ka na namang 195,025 metric tons ng refined sugar. Nandoon ho kami, nandoon po siya sa aking tanggapan.
So, thank you, Mr. Executive Secretary. Are there questions from the Blue Ribbon? Senator Pimentel, the
Thank
minority
you.
leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify nga the August 4 kasi, kawawa naman yung mga tao, tinawag nyo na illegal, unauthorized, immoral yung meeting nila. Ngayon, sasabihin nyo, sinungaling pa sila sa August 4. Totoong may meeting pala nung August 4, Mr. ES. Ang tanong na lang, were there others present by online? Okay, para organize po tayo sa ating facts para walang allegation na may nagsisinungaling. May inaccuracy siguro sa pagka-state niya, pero may August 4 meeting, nabanggit niya online kasi naka-online siya, mahirap talaga ang pero hybrid pa lang ibig niyang sabihin. Physical po kayo, meron bang others present online? Tandaan po natin, Mr. Valderrama confirms such a meeting.
That is what I will have to check, Your Honor, so that we will be precise. What I'm saying is, August 4, what I'm affirming now, based on my recollection, it really transpired, Your Honor, that he was physically present in my office. Purposely, we were discussing on how the 200,000 metric tons product of SO3 was consumed, Your Honor.
Okay na yes, kasi para doon lang tayo. So, okay, so you do not recall an August 4 meeting which is hybrid. Alam naman natin meaning hybrid na may physical and then may naka-online. Where the President was online and maybe he mentioned 600,000 metric tons. But hindi ito utos. I mean, pwedeng brainstorming lang ninyo na nabanggit para wala tayong sinasabing nagsisinungaling. Hindi naman ano yun eh. I mean, hindi naman krimen yun na nagbe-brainstorming po kayo ng figure. At saka from the opening statement kasi of the Executive Secretary, Mr. Chairman, yung mga gusto nilang malaman sa sugar industry, exactly sa gusto natin malaman. Exactly. Gusto niya malaman yung traders, mga volume. Exacto. So, ibig sabihin nun, ano na lang ito din sa SRA, you are not transparent enough, SRA, maraming opaque kayo, opaque. Hindi kayo naiintindihan, maraming gusto namin maintindihan ng inyong mga proseso, so try your best to be transparent. So, balik po ako, ES, yun lang po yun. Yun lang po yun para kawawa naman yung mga tao, tatawagin na natin sinungaling pa. I mean, nabanggit ba ni Presidente Marcos yung 600,000 metric tons offhand as part of the discussion? And then, kasi iba yung date August 4 ito then subsequently, pwede pa rin sabihin nyo na you found the 300,000 to be too much. Pero subsequently na po yun, mga 1 week later na po yun. So, August 4 lang po tayo nakatingin. So, yes.
Your Honor, makakaasa po kayo. I'll determine whether there was a hybrid or there was participants in the Zoom meeting. At kagaya po ninyo, wala rin ho kaming layunin o pakay na paratangan ng kung sino man at ng kung ano man ang mga pinatawag po ng committee. Aalamin ko po iyon, Your Honor, and what I can assure you, at kung may naganap man hong hybrid o may participant doon sa via Zoom, malalaman po ninyo.
With the permission of Senator Pimentel, as requested by Senator Ontiveros, kung meron transcript, provide na lang sa chairman. But to correct the impression, yung word na sinungaling, kaya ako nabanggit yun kanina, kasi sinasabi niya na hindi raw niya sinabi. You were not yet around, Mr.
I was online. I was present online, Chairman.
Ito po nakalagay, maliwanag yung I have the transcripts now. The advanced copy of the TSN. And Mr. Serapica mentioned several times the words 600,000 of metric tons at 10:25 a.m. Almost more than 2 hours ago. Senator Ontiveros asked, 600,000 metric tons ang binanggit. Mr. Serapica said, yes po. So these are all here. So I mentioned the word sinungaling because I was made to appear that I'm not quoting from something. I'm quoting from the transcript of stenographic notes, 10:25 a.m. So you can proceed.
I can continue. Basta tandaan lang natin na yung allegation ni Mr. Serapica na mayroong hybrid meeting August 4 na nabanggit ng 600,000 metric tons ni President Marcos was confirmed by another person, Mr. Valderrama. Okay? So, dalawa ang nagsasabi po nito. Anyway,
Senator Pimentel, with my interjection again, Mr. Valderrama has not yet been put to the witness stand today. The allegation came from Mr. Serapica that Valderrama was part of the loop.
Present po kanina sa online, I think he was asked, and then he appeared to confirm the story.
I do not recall. Comsec, tinawag ko na ba si Mr. Valderrama?
Kanina.
No. Tinanong ko na ba siya? Mr. Valderrama? I stand corrected.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, can I now proceed to another matter? At least nasagot ni si ES. Mr. Chairman, can I proceed on another matter? Okay lang, sige. ES, punta tayo sa ano mo, testimony mo, August 23, 2022 po, dito po sa committee ito. I hope you have a copy of your transcript.
Meron po, Your Honor.
August,
ako mismo ang sumulat sa akin notebook.
Okay, ito pong page 14 po ng transcript po ng August 23, 2022, which captures your testimony. Second paragraph, yung August 7, last sentence, sabi mo, I purposely did not answer him dahil wala pa pong tugon ang Pangulo sa tatlong bagay na ito. Yung mga tanong ito yung mga tanong ni Senior Yusek Leo Sebastian, di ba? Yun. Tapos sa August 8 naman, ito naman sa last paragraph ng page 14, meron na namang sentence mo na, I purposely did not respond because these are the matters that are still on the table of the acting secretary of the Department of Agriculture, page 15 na po ako, that we have yet to act upon and that he has yet to decide. Actually, yan po ang parang naging ugat ng controversy is yung hindi pag-communicate. Yun ang nakita ko. Bakit? Why do you purposely not respond, Mr. ES? You could have responded na we have not yet made a decision on that. You say, why? Doon po na kasi alam nyo ba bakit? Kasi ang nangyari, nag-assume. Yun ang sagot naman nila sa amin, we assumed. Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Kaya po kami hindi sumasagot dahil meron pa nga ho mga nakabinbin na for action or decision ho ng acting secretary na si Pangulong Marcos. At malinaw naman po noon doon na if I may go back further a little, Your Honor. In fact, alam naman ho nung dating Chief of Staff at Senior Yusek in charge for operation na yung kanyang additional delegated authority ay hindi naman po yun kapangyarihang gumawa ng mali. Proof is, noong July 29, 2022, ito po na inabot lamang ngayon ng aking staff, meron po siyang liham, pagpapatunay lang na he is conscious na ang kanyang authority ay hindi naman po blanket authority yan na mag-decide on his own. Ito po kanyang July 29, 2022 memo ay humingi po siya ng guidance on whether to approve the reclassification of sugar from C to B. Ito po yung nabanggit ko kanina na higit kumulang ay 62,000 metric tons. I will be submitting this, Your Honor, although it's just a photocopy, the only copy that I have now, para lang po sa guidance po ng committee at nating lahat, na malinaw naman po sa kanya as early as July 29 na ang kanyang authority ho ay limitado lamang. And proof is, yung nabanggit ko nga ho sa aking statement na August 7, Sunday, tinatanong niya po ako, kagaya po nung nabanggit ni kagalang-galang na Senator Coco Pimentel, yung tatlong bagay, any instruction from the President after his meeting with SINAG on sugar and the fertilizer. So malinaw po yun for his every action, humingi po siya ng confirmation, Your Honor. At kaya ko lang po talaga hindi na sinasagot yun, Your Honor, dahil wala pa pong pinal na desisyon o aksyon ang Pangulo. Yun lamang po yun, Your Honor.
Anyway po, ang habol natin dito, mga lessons learned. I mean,
yes, with your permission, you can submit that, just certify it. The committee secretariat is directed to retrieve from the good executive secretary a copy of the document just mentioned a while ago, but it has to be a certified copy and we will mark that accordingly. Please proceed, Senator Pimentel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, ano lang yun, ES, parang we should parang learn our lessons here. Because you could have answered kasi na hindi pa ready, Yusek, hindi pa ready. Parang ganun ba? I mean, sayang. My reputations are damaged. Even it's not even it taints the start of the Marcos administration na merong parang fiasco na ganito. Just a little improvement in the communication Sayang lang. I mean, nasasayangan lang ako dahil ang sagot mo kasi I purposely did not answer. You could have answered that we are not yet ready to give you approval or wait for a while, mga ganon. So, yan lang po yung aking opinion. But siyempre, di na natin mababalik ang panahon. Nangyari na po yung nangyari. Yes. But thank you for your reply. Ito lang po sa page 16 po ES ng iyong transcript. Yung first paragraph, yung ito galit ka na rito galit na kayo sa SO4 sa mga pumirma sa You ask them. Tinanong mo si Administrator Serapica, Beltran, and Yusek Sebastian, ang tugon, parang malabo ito, ang sagot po sa akin, ang naging tugon niya, akala ko po kasi okay na, sabi ni Yusek Leo. Sa gitna, sa page 16 po. Ganon din ho yung sagot ni Board Member Beltran, at ganon din ang sagot ni Senior Yusek Leo Sebastian. Nalito lang po ako ron because Senior Yusek Leo Sebastian will not answer with the sentence, akala ko po kasi okay na, sabi ni Yusek Leo. Isa yung tinatanong nyo. So ano po yung sagot niya? Ano sagot ni Yusek Leo Sebastian sa tanong mo?
Yun po yung eksaktong sagot niya. Akala ko kasi ay okay na. Yun po yung tugon ni Yusek Leo Sebastian. At when I asked him, again, based on what I have said, on what transpired on 10 August, Wednesday, when I confronted them, yung dalawa po, si dating Administrator Serapica and Board Member Beltran, ay sa magkahiwalay na telepono, pinatawagan ko sa kanya. I don't know, I cannot recall now kaninong telepono yung isa. Naka-speakerphone po pareho yun. And in his presence, I asked him, bakit kayo nagpasa niyan? Akala ko, ang sagot ho nila, akala ko kasi ay okay na. Iisa ho ang kanilang naging tugon, Your Honor.
Okay, yung iba quoting Yusek Leo Sebastian, according to him, okay na. Yan po ba ang tamang interpretation nitong inyong sinabi?
Yes, Your Honor, dahil siya po ang nagpa-route nung sugar order number 4 for purposes of
Referendum. Yes. Sige, sir. Klaro naman, sir, na klaro naman na kailangan ni Yusek Sebastian ng approval. Actually, yun na nga. Sabi mo, sumulat pa. Ako, nagte-text pa. May personal visit. Sabi ko nga, an additional personal visit might have avoided all of this. Kung pumunta sa sayo personal, sinabi nyo, thumbs down pa, hindi pa approve yan. Ngayon, pwede ko tanungin si Yusek Sebastian to clarify SO4. SO4 is about the importation of sugar, 300,000 metric tons, but it covers the calendar year hanggang November. Tama po ba yan?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Correct, di ba? So it goes beyond the crop year, no? So kaya nga ngayon, it's the start of a new crop year or season. And there's a new SO2, as I've read. There's an SO1 and there's a new SO2 for 150,000 metric tons. But the year is not yet over. So tignan natin if SO2 may be followed by another sugar order and an importation of a certain quantity. Kung magtugma yan at the end of the year sa 300,000 metric tons, therefore, we had no debate at all pala. So hintayin na natin, but that remains to be seen. December 31, 2022 is the reckoning point. Kasi as I understand SO4, it goes beyond the crop year. Ang nabasa ko hanggang, meron kayong isang factor na hanggang December ang kinonsider ninyo, may isang factor na hanggang November ang kinonsider ninyo. So I just want to make that of record, Mr. Chairman, ako, I will be looking at December 31, 2022 para malaman ko kung for the calendar year, ilan yung inangkat natin. So,
that's why, Senator Pimentel, I've been asking since 9 a.m. Attorney Tejeda to produce the inventory. You promised us for the last several hours that the signature is underway. So sabi ko, ipalalamove mo na lang. Nauna pa yung Jollibee. Anyway, you can have your lunch while we're having this hearing. So when can we have that inventory from SRA?
Yes, sir. As per my communication of the staff of the admin officer, it was already sent. Can we check on the email, sir?
Sent to?
To the Senate, the Blue Ribbon Committee, sir.
Can we check that? They are not nodding their heads. Wala pa daw.
Okay, sir. I'll do another follow-up, sir.
Please. Kung pumunta ka doon kanina, nakuha mo na eh.
Yes, sir. The problem is it's not with my office. I cannot, sir. It's with the admin office.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Sabi ni Attorney Tihada kanina, Tihida. 1 hour daw, bigyan mo siya ng 1 hour. Titignan ko yung oras ngayon, sobra 1 hour na yung pag-request niya kanina. So, maybe we can give him another 1 hour, Mr. Chairman.
As far as
Mr. Chairman.
Your Honor, because
We'll run out of Jollibees if we
Yes,
provide
sir.
him another hour.
I received a confirmation that they sent it at 12:25, Your Honor, before the 1 hour. But
Yes, that will partly answer the query of Senator Pimentel regarding the need for another round of importation because of the inventory. So, Senator Pimentel, are you done with your questioning?
I'll suspend my questioning, Mr. Chairman. Give way to the others.
Mr. Chairman.
We see virtually Senator Alan Cayetano.
Mr. Chairman, may I interject just one question kay ES in connection with the interpellation of Senator Pimentel, if our colleagues would allow.
Yes, you have the floor. As long as this is germane to the previous questioning.
Yes,
You have the floor.
yes. Well, basically, I viewed, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with you that Mr. Serapica said it, then completely denied it, and then clarified it. So I am with the chairman when you are asking him, is he lying? Having said that, the minority leader pointed a good point about not only communication, but is there misinformation in this committee? So to give clarity, I just have one question. When this issue broke out, just to give the context, Yusek Sebastian signature appeared for the president. And when this came out to media, if I'm not mistaken, Yusek Sebastian said that to spare the president from further embarrassment, he will resign. And then Malacanang came out saying that he is no longer Yusek. And when I questioned him, because you do not sign for the president, you sign by authority of the president. You only sign for the president when there is specific instructions na ipirma mo na ako yan. So, he pointed to a memorandum order or whatever the nomenclature of that order, basically the ES giving him powers. Basically, para siyang acting secretary in the absence of or unless the president reverses him. But recently, lumabas, hindi pa pala siya fired o hindi siya resigned. Siya daw po ay suspended lang. Which is no issue at all if there were no allegations that there is someone behind using the president's name. But the records are complete with testimony that certain people in the SRA were telling the stakeholders that ito ang gusto ni Presidente. No? So that comes into play. Yung pumirma ka na mali, na in good faith, na yun ang proseso, you should not be punished or fired for that if it, if it isn't per se a bad decision. But in context of making it appear na yan ang gusto ng Presidente, ibang usapan yan. That's an allegation of being part of the conspiracy. So given that context, only one question. Mr. Executive Secretary, magandang hapon po. Ang question ko po, is he fired or not? And if he's not, why is he not fired when he signed for the President? And after all your testimony, it is very clear that the President did not intend to allow that order. So that's why ang dami tuloy lumalabas usap-usapan ngayon na prinoprotektahan si Yusek Sebastian. It may be unfair, but that precisely is the question, no? Is he fired or not, or is he resigned or not? And if he is still Yusek, just under preventive suspension, is that the government we're going to have? That anyone who signs for the president will just get a slap on the wrist? That's my question.
You may answer, ES Rodriguez.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon to Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. Good afternoon, sir. Yung sulat ho niya kasi ng August 11, I have again a photocopy here. Ang sinasabi lang ho niya ay hindi naman po resignation. Ang sinasabi niya, if I may read, Your Honor, please, on the second paragraph, and I quote, "Thus, I humbly offer to be relieved of my delegated authorities and assignments and responsibilities in my capacity as Chief of Staff and Undersecretary of the Department of Agriculture." Hindi naman ho siya nag-resign. I was, if I may refer later on to the Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal for the further discussion. Kasi ho, si Yusek Leo ho ay CESO 1. At ang hinihingi lang po niya sa kanyang sulat ay siya ay ma-relieve sa kanyang duties as Chief of Staff at Yusek. Hindi po siya nag-resign, Your Honor. Humihingi lamang po siya na i-relieve siya ng kanyang pagiging COS at USEC. If for further clarification, to expound, if I may be permitted, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, to refer the matter to the Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal.
Yes, but we have to administer the oath to the Deputy Executive Secretary. Can you please rise? Can you administer the oath, General Counsel?
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Yes, sir.
We still want to get your name kasi walang nameplate sa harap mo. Just mention some of your personal circumstances.
Yes, sir. I'm Attorney Richard Palpalato, the current Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal Affairs under the Office of the President. That's it, sir.
And
Mr. Chairman, before he answers, before he answers the question, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just that online, I do not know when, I'm interrupting you or not, so I apologize for that. I agree with the Executive Secretary na kapag CESO, or meaning career, unlike political appointees that you can just fire them. But to put context sa sagot ng Deputy Executive Secretary for Legal, when it's for cause, you can also immediately fire career officials. No, President Duterte fired several career officials because the point here is if you look at the privileged speech of the Senate President, may kikita ng daan-daan milyon kung natuloy ito. And it was the signature of the USEC who was given authority to make decisions, not to sign for the President. So the mere fact that someone signs for the President is more than enough grounds to fire him. Secondly, anong sagot niya I refer to the records, no? But something like mali yung akala niya or whatever akala niya, yun ang gusto ng Presidente. If the whole sugar industry will suffer and people cannot buy sugar because it's too expensive already, I don't know ano pang hinihintay natin to fire someone who did something like that, no? So I just want to put that on the record, Mr. President and Mr. Chairman, because it's not only a question of legal, it's also a moral question. Will you allow undersecretaries to do that? Because we're just beginning this administration and we're all trying to help, whether administration or opposition, dahil grabe na pinangdadaanan ng ating mga kababayan. Tuloy-tuloy ang COVID, napakamahal ng presyo ng mga bilihin, etong sugar, marami pa tayong anin dito. So for me, Mr. Executive Secretary, I thank you for your answer. It was a straight legal answer, but please look into this because whatever you do will set an example for the next 6 years. And if we're going to say, well, kailangan imbestigahan muna ng legal and you're not going to have a firm handling of this USEC, unless nga, which is the speculation ng iba, meron na sa likod niya na mataas na pumoprotekta sa kanya kaya hindi maalis. So hindi po to chismis. I'm telling you face to face, except via Blue Jeans sa Blue Ribbon Committee, that these are eto ang mga pinag-uusapan, whether ng mga senador o mga tao sa kalye, na bakit ang lalakas ng mga ito, no? So can you imagine if other USEC start signing for the President, hindi by the authority of the President? So I cannot overemphasize this, Mr. Chairman, so I apologize, no? But that's the question there. And I will accept yung legal, no? But this isn't a legal question. It's a question of how this administration is going to treat government officials who use the president's name and causes severe damage to our people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Cayetano. The Deputy Executive Secretary can now answer the question delegated to you by the Executive Secretary.
Yes, yes.
I think it's something to do with the CESO, rank, etc., etc. Please proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. With respect to Undersecretary Sebastian, as the Executive Secretary said, the request of Yusek Sebastian was only for the relief of his duties. And considering that he is a CESO 1, appointed as Undersecretary, he is a career official, Your Honor. And by requesting to be relieved, he did not resign from the position. He can still be appointed to another position equivalent to his CESO rank.
So that would entail relief of concurrent and additional duties.
Duties, yes, Your Honor. And with respect to the manifestation of the good Senator Cayetano, Your Honor, that is precisely the subject matter of the investigation of my office, the matter of the signature of Yusek Sebastian appearing on the SO4. So we have given the parties the
If I may
opportunity.
interrupt, precisely the question of Senator Cayetano is this, rephrased from my part. Being assessor rank officer, can Yusek Sebastian be fired?
He can be fired, Your Honor, for cause. After due process, Your Honor.
So is that part of the ongoing investigation right now?
Yes, Your Honor.
And when do we expect to have a result?
As soon as possible, Your Honor. There are proceedings, there are procedures to be observed, Your Honor.
Can this committee be furnished a copy of the results?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Senator Pimentel, any questions? If none,
Mr. Chair, last question, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Cayetano
For me lang
is,
po,
yes.
With your permission lang, Mr. Chairman, as soon as possible is not a good answer because, yes, there is a procedural due process, but this is the most simple of cases. Did he abuse his power for signing for the President? Napakalinaw ng facts, he admitted it, nandyan ang dokumento. You can call him anytime, you can have the hearing anytime. So the mere fact na buwan na to, no, September na, is questionable for me. So if you want to send a message to the rest of the bureaucracy that you can't mess around with this administration, you can't let people suffer with prices, hindi nyo pwedeng guluhin. Even yung Blue Ribbon Committee, ang dami namin dapat i-hearing, then you will tell us. So, excuse me lang, but I don't mean to sound that I'm scolding. But, you know, I've been in government for 30 years. I've been opposition to many administrations and then a partner to the Duterte administration. But, Mr. E.S., may I just give a unsolicited advice? Speed matters in issues like this. Gusto mong mawala ang mga marites na nagkakalat na gusto ng presidente nung sugar importation? Gusto nyo mawala yung mga marites na nagsasabing may promoprotekta kay Yusek Sebastian? You know, be decisive and make a decision. You know, ano to? Simpong ganyan, aabutin ng 6 months, 3 months? How can the courts take the cue from us in the executive and legislative kung mabagal tayo? Look at our chairman, no? Very organized, very quick, and then tinatapos niya kaagad. So I'll stop there, Mr. Chair, but respectfully sa ating executive secretary, please look into this because this will really matter down the line in this administration. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Your Honor. So next in line to question would be Senator J.B. Ejercito. No questions coming from Senator Ejercito. Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa. No questions.
Before we,
the Senate President.
Before we excuse the Executive Secretary, can I just ask for a 1-minute suspension?
Session is suspended for 1 minute.
I'm sorry for the delay, Your
So
Honor.
we have just received the inventory and we will reproduce the same.
Mr. Chairman, while we are, I was going to ask clarification to the Executive Secretary. I just want the...
Tejada, yes.
May I ask si Mr. Tejada, what is your, ano po ang designation niyo sa SRA? Kasi sorry, I was not in the other two meetings.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Mayang hapon, sir. I am the Deputy Administrator for Regulation, sir, of the Sugar Regulatory Administration.
Yes, and I had a meeting last night, and I would like to share this information with Senator JV, because I saw a statement online that is upset at the non-participation of the SRA board today. I had dinner with them last night, and they mentioned that they want to attend the hearing today. The problem is the Civil Service Commission, CSC, and the GCG, Government Corporate Governance, had required them to attend today. Is that correct?
I can confirm that, sir. They informed me.
And they were told that if they don't attend, they cannot get their clearance. Is that correct?
I'm not privy to that statement, but I can confirm that they went to the GCG, sir.
They were told, I was told, because I told them, important yung meeting bukas. So, yeah, sir, ang problema namin, we were told if we do not attend the GCG meeting today, we will not get our clearance to be, full appointee under the law. I think there's a GCG law. So, just for the record, to my dear colleague from San Juan, that is the reason why they could not attend. And finally, Mr. President, there's news going out now in online on Serapica's statement that the President, maliciously, again, being dragged to this. It's unfortunate because the President is having a very successful state visit in two of our neighboring countries. That his name has to be dragged into this mess by this Serapica. He could have divulged this information earlier, and all of a sudden, binulaga na tayo ngayong araw na to. I would like to ask the Executive Secretary. He was there in that meeting, and to confirm or deny the statement of Mr. Serapica about the President asking for 600,000 metric tons. I can't believe it. Me, myself, I cannot believe it. Because it was the President who called me and said that we have to have a stakeholders meeting because I do not believe the SRA is asking for 300,000 metric tons for importation. So I can't believe it myself. Mr. ES, could you confirm or deny what Serapica is saying? For the record, for
Thank
the
you.
media to hear the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Senate President. Thank you, Your Honors. I categorically deny that there was an instruction from the President to even consider or to import 600,000 metric tons of sugar for SO4. Wala hong ganong pronouncement or wala hong ganong kautusan ang Pangulo. Ulitin ko ho, kaya po nandoon kami nahinto sa import plan, gusto ho niyang makita, tama ba na 300,000 metric tons ang ating i-import? At yun po yung mga bagay na aming riniresolba pa, kaya wala pa hong basihan yung SO4. At higit sa lahat, wala pong ganoong kautusan ng Pangulo na mag-angkat ng 600,000 metric tons ng asukal.
Thank you for that information. I hope that the media picks up also the answer of the Executive Secretary as he was part of that meeting. Let's not put malice on that statement of Serapica because, we don't want to damper a very successful state visit, and I myself truly do not believe it. I go with the statement of Mr. Lamata that he is lying.
Thank you, Senate President. I'd like to acknowledge the arrival of Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Senator De La Rosa, you have a query?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. With the recent developments, I am inclined to make a motion to have somebody cited in contempt for lying before this committee. But having said that, I am entertaining naman other thoughts. How are we going to treat somebody in contempt who is online and who is suffering from COVID-19, Mr. Chairman? So, I am in quandary as to mag-motion ako or hindi because naawa rin ako dahil COVID positive yung tao nandun ngayon sa bahay niya. At the same time, I want to maintain the integrity of this committee na dapat nobody should be lying before this committee, Mr. Chairman. So, I am asking for some administrative advice from our chairman how to deal with this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
De La Rosa, if you're relying on Section 18 of Resolution 145, let me refresh your memory that a contempt of this committee shall be deemed a contempt of the Senate, and such witness may be ordered by the committee to be detained in such place as it may designate under the custody of the Sergeant at Arms. So we leave that to the compassionate mode of the good senator. If there is no motion, that will be made and perhaps in due time. But is Senator Estrada propounding a question?
Your Honor, maybe to hasten the proceedings because I think we've discussed this issue lengthily. Mr. Serapica has COVID-19. We have to give a bit of compassion to his condition. I would suggest to do justice to the farmers, to do justice to the stakeholders. Maybe we can terminate the hearings, come up with a quick resolution of the case, approve it before the break, and if these cases are necessary to be filed, let us file them so that they have their day in court. And I think that would be the best. With of course, the approval of our minority floor leader, Jose Bar Tapnancher, who would agree that if they feel that there's malfeasance, misfeasance, any violations of the Graft and Corrupt Practices Act, let us come up already with the findings, Your Honor, and proceed with the filing of the cases.
Senator Pimentel, our mathematician.
Since there are no more questions to be directed to the Executive Secretary, and if there are no more questions to the other resource persons, I agree that we can terminate the hearing, come up with just one final report. Hindi na kailangan po ng partial report.
Is that a motion to adjourn?
Depends on our colleagues because they were asked if they had questions for the ES. Baka meron pa sa iba kasi sa ibang resource persons.
Only one remaining, Attorney Tejeda.
Yes,
yung
sir.
inventory. We have the inventory. Shorten this. Provide a copy to the good Executive Secretary likewise. Yung inventaryo nyo, kulang ba talaga ang asukal?
As per our records, Your Honor, the inventory of this year is not the same as last year. We have a less number of inventory, Your Honor.
But based on market needs?
Yes, Your Honor, there might be tightness in supply.
Right now?
Yes, Your Honor. As our projection would also state, Your Honor.
Thank you. Finally, we got your inventory. So, is there a motion to adjourn coming from our colleagues to adjourn the hearing? And
Mr. Chair.
there is a motion coming from Senator. Yes.
Before we do that, Your Honor, I would just like to again thank the Executive Secretary for respecting the Blue Ribbon Committee and coming over physically answering the questions of our colleagues. Maraming salamat po, and we also appreciate the effort of the President to call us today that you will be arriving and joining us for this hearing. Salamat po.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn. Thanks to the good Executive Secretary. There is a motion coming from Senator Jinggoy Estrada, seconded by Senator De La Rosa. Without objection, the hearing of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee relative to the sugar fiasco is hereby adjourned and terminated.